Welcome to Dialog Choices podcast. I am tired boy, and I am tired. How are you doing today?
Yeah, welcome to Dialog Choices.
StarCraft.
StarCraft? What are you?
StarCraft: The Phantom Menace is the most disappointing.
Oh.
I was like,
It sounded like you were doing.
I literally got the first word wrong.
Immediately.
StarCraft: The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I was like, wait, you sound like you're doing a Plinkett voice, but I didn't know why you said StarCraft. I didn't know of any quotes where it says StarCraft.
I remember when I used to like Plinkett videos.
I remember when I used
Blanket?
to, and I remember when I used to like YouTube videos.
Those videos really went downhill over time. It's a bummer.
Well, I think it's just when something becomes more forced than just fun.
Yeah,
that's when the quality starts to
Crack
drop.
the
And
whip.
I think
Make more of this fucking thing.
yeah, I wanted more, but like only if you had an idea. I didn't really particularly care if you didn't have anything for the rest of your life.
It's like nostalgic almost how long ago it was at this point. But once upon a time, I was at your house recording something. I don't know, maybe Zero Escape, maybe Sonic or something. And like suddenly, out of nowhere, the gates, the sky opened up and a beam of light shone down. And my goodness, there's a new Plinkett review of the Force Awakens. Incredible. It's been like years since the last one. It was like back in the day when you were like looking forward to like a sequelitis and they were so fucking rare that you always thought they were over. And then suddenly, oh my god, an Ocarina of Time sequelitis. I didn't even know to expect this. And then we fucking watch it and it's like 2 hours long and it's just wildly disappointing.
yeah.
Instead of because there's so little to actually critique about The Force Awakens, it's just not it's just not bad for that interesting of reasons, or even that bad in general, in the way that he had material for the prequels. So instead he goes on responding to some fucking fan theory no one's ever heard of, and then complains about like diversity basically. And you're like, oh, all right, well, this isn't what I signed up for.
I mean, it definitely did. It proved what we all were thinking, that the movie was so nothing that not even Plinkett could complain about it.
And then I just remember the Last
impressive.
Jedi coming out, and he tried to recreate what he did with Phantom Menace, where he did like this like a third of the review is just going into the number of logical inconsistencies in just the opening scene of Phantom Menace, just the 500 reasons the scene doesn't make sense, and it's like the thing that sets this tone for the entire movie. But he does it for like the part of The Last Jedi where there's like airstrike, like Death Stars shooting down at the base, and it's like he tries so hard to like squeeze blood from the stone, and it's like, this just isn't, none of this rings true. Like this, none of the things you're saying actually matter. What the fuck? And it's how you watch the Titans die. I always feel a little weird because we're also YouTubers and so on or something, but you're critiquing people, this is unprofessional or whatever. But it's like the arc of like fucking like that game theory where it's like, remember when this series was fun? It's a long time ago.
The process of going viral, I feel, or I have the impression, just changes your incentives so much that like that forced aspect that you're referring to. I don't know Plinkett, or I also have not watched Star Wars, as we know very well. But I think the process of just going viral and just having something that your audience really, really expects from you is like the pressure is there, whether the creator feels it or not, or whether the creator is like scared of it or not. It doesn't matter. The pressure is there, and people being forced into. And when I say forced, I mean obviously sounding forced in this case. It's just I've
done the dance where you're like you're brand new at the thing basically, and you're just trying to figure out like what works, and like that video did well. How do I make that happen again? And so you just kind of like certain things. You're just like, time to trot this thing out again, like what Quentin
Yeah, but even
reviews
for
with
us-
Fallen Titans, and Red Letter Media with Plinkett reviews, and fucking Game Theory with FNAF. Like one thing does
Yeah.
so well that it eclipses everything else you've ever done. So now it just defines your presence on the platform, and you have to just chase that forever, or just give up on any momentum you ever had. Which is what we did on Sad
really
Games.
I really respect channels that have like super popular series going, either games or critiques or whatever, and then just release videos that only like 500 people watch or something like that about them playing. What's that game where the little baby is running away from his mother?
What?
I'm thinking of a specific creator. I don't actually remember the name of the creator.
Ico, boom,
No, the one
blowing
the
your
one with the
mind right
beans.
now.
The one with the beans and the poop. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows the game.
The beans.
The beans and the poop. Yeah.
The beans and the poop. And you're running from your
Isaac.
mother.
Isaac.
Oh,
Isaac's-
Oh, Binding of Isaac.
Binding of Isaac.
That's
yeah.
the one. Yes. It has beans. Binding of
You're
Isaac.
running from your mother. I
Isn't
guess.
that? Yeah, I've never played it. But
It's more
what I'm
that your
saying is
mom.
like,
You have a hyper religious zealot mother nightmare that's abusive, because that's like Ed McMillan's history with religion, and she locks him in like the basement, and then just like a roguelike happens down there, and then the final boss is the mother when he presumably like is escaping the basement. I guess it's kind of abstracted. I feel like he keeps going deeper and lower, but somehow reaches his mother at the bottom. Blowing your fucking mind. There might be logical inconsistencies in Binding of Isaac.
game theory sort of thing. It's an opportunity there. I'm sure that there's a lot of videos about it. What I'm saying is like, like imagine you publish a Let's Play part 1 of any one game. It doesn't matter what game it is tomorrow, and it does 1 million views in the first week.
That's your life
Shatters.
now.
That shatters your expectations of everything in your channel. Like for you to make the conscious decision of, no, I will continue playing Fallout 1 in this blind playthrough. Yes, I will continue play CRPGs, or I mean, maybe it's a CRPG that does 1 million views. Who knows?
There was some
Maybe it's
really
Fallout 1.
examples where, in response to how well Souls games were doing in a few cases, I would upload like 2 to 3 videos per day of the same game, and that was most of my schedule. And I actually remember there being somebody like yelling at me like, you can't do this to us or something. I'm like, I can do anything. The fuck?
You are forcing us to watch your videos too much.
You can't make up rules. I'm allowed to upload this game at more than other games if I want to.
You
Especially
were
since
ahead of the game.
Especially since I really like the game. So it's like a double bonus. But yeah, like they would be...
Yeah, you were ahead of the game at the time because that for a while that's what Let's Players would do after.
That's Code Carnage's channel. Is he uploads one game for like 3 days and then he's just done with the whole game because he just spams videos.
That seems unfun to just never finish any game you start.
The problem.
No, he finishes them. He just finishes them very quickly.
Yeah.
He only plays that
Oh.
game, and he uploads several videos per day of just that game, and then the series is over then it's over, and then he goes on to the next game. On one hand, clean, no juggling and all that, and you get done with each game really quick. But on the other hand, like that is like an even more like bad for people using the subscriber tab than my channel has ever been.
Yeah.
Like holy
Yeah.
shit, to spam people with like 20 videos of one game in like a few days, and it's like the whole for people that don't understand the whole reason why we stagger videos the way we do, where we batch record a bunch of one game and then we spread them out over the next like week or so, is because like no one watches stuff at that pace. Like people, like I mean, someone like literally every time.
No, people do watch it. Some people binge watch old series.
Yeah, like every single time you say that, obviously the person who does watch stuff that way comes out of the fucking word work. It's like, I work at night alone and I just binge videos for 8 hours a night every night, and so when someone does that, it's great for exactly me. But those are like super niche lives to make content for. Whereas like most people, it's like, oh, they get home from work or they're on their lunch break or whatever the fuck, and they'll like watch like one video per day, and you're fighting
Episode
and you're
53.
fighting for attention with everybody else over whether to be your video. And so if you upload like 50 videos in a day, everyone's like even at the pace I upload videos at, they're like, oh well, I'm not caught up on that series, so I'm just not going to watch it. And then they're like, maybe one day, and maybe one day means never. They'll never catch up on it. So if you spam videos and people just don't keep up on it, but at the same time, there's like especially if you only watch stuff via the front page, if you spam an entire series in one day, you can kind of just like shoot your load all at once and just be like, I don't know if people are gonna click on it. They can spend the next like few weeks slowly binging this by being suggested the next video in the series over and over again. Whereas I don't know, everything's fucking complicated. Somebody commented on my most recent Zeroscape highlight, being like, wow, I've basically forgotten about this series. I should really go back and binge the first two games before your series on the third one comes out. And I'm like, we're halfway done with the third one. We're like 10 videos are already up. YouTube visibility is weird. So many people just use the front page, so everything's just hidden from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the trick, because YouTube categorizes the videos on your own channel and tries to determine like the quality of like whether or not the videos themselves fit into the category of what people on that channel want to watch. Even though you subscribe to the channel, it'll try to judge what you want to watch as a viewer of that channel, and it'll categorize it that way. Like I look at a David J. Bradley, for example, is a small channel run by this asexual dude, and he has a bunch of other videos about other things. But if you sort by popularity, every single video that has the asexual flag as the background of his thumbnail are all of his most popular videos in order, for example. It's like it gets stuck in this category, and so it's like game theory probably gets stuck in the situation where it's like, oh well, FNAF did so well, and if we want those people to look at our videos again, like the YouTube algorithm will potentially just not even share our other videos. But if we cover FNAF again, bam, lights up. And like that kind of stuff, like from like Sad Games has thousands and thousands of videos, but for many parts the internet, the Tokyo Jungle ones are the only ones that exist, and it'll just pretend the other ones don't. And instead of suggesting new videos uploaded by Sad Games, it'll just resuggest the old Tokyo Jungle videos to the same people again.
Yep.
Like that's the kind of platform it is. It's fucking weird.
Yep.
And nobody knows the answers.
And now the video, it used to be that the video tab on anybody's channel, you could always sort by popular, which was really handy for some channels that you found, and you just wanted to see what they had to offer, what was more popular. And these days, not all channels have that. For some, I still haven't been able to figure it out, but some channels don't allow you to sort by popular.
Some channels have like unique profiles. I mean, like I've noticed. I found Lil Nas X's channel, and it's unrecognizable for anyone that's ever looked at YouTube profiles before. Like it just doesn't. He has a different profile somehow. I don't know what it is. All the buttons are gone that are normally on a YouTube profile. It doesn't work like one. All of the basic like structural elements of what a YouTube profile is shaped like, and what the features are, and what the tabs are, and so on, they're just gone.
What? For who?
Lil Nas X.
I'm on his page right now. It looks exactly the same as any other channel.
Let's bring it up.
Let me see.
Lil.
Oh,
did you accidentally show up into YouTube Music?
Oh, because it could be the theme. No, there's something called especially for music, this happens a lot. It's like the subject. It's not the channel of the person. It's like the subject. You know what's subject? Games, or subject Lil Nas X, and those have a different thing. Maybe you found that.
Maybe
I don't know how to.
I think you just went into YouTube Music on accident.
No, I don't think it was YouTube Music, because it was the same like page. Like it's the same website generally.
That's how it looks to me, and that looks exactly the same.
Shit, now I don't know how to recreate what happened. It might have been what he said. It might have been like the topic or something, which is confusing in its own way.
That's the one.
Oh yeah, there are like weird whatever.
Like the entire page was fundamentally shaped differently. And not like completely like it looked like a series of like It was like
It's columns, right? It's like video after video in columns.
It's like on my front page where you have all those horizontal bars. Yeah, that's like it's a bunch of categories of videos, but without any of like the top category. Like there was no home video playlist, community store, so on, and like a bunch of other elements were just missing. So it was just a series of like horizontal playlisty categories and nothing else to click on. And I was like, the fuck? But I might have backed my way into some weird cul-de-sac of YouTube's like dead end features where they just kind of like build out in a weird direction and don't explain themselves.
That could have been.
It's really something really funny about how like music is so fucking popular on this platform that in many ways this website just assumes you're listening to music no matter what. So if you listen to like, if you watch any video for any reason, basically, it'll immediately try to suggest you like the 200 playlist, like auto-generated playlist for that thing. Like it's music. Like it'll always be like, it's like a Spotify playlist. And it's like that.
Would you like to see the Keith Ballard mix? Your mix, not Keith Ballard's mix. It's always your mix. Because they like to pretend that it is true.
Yeah, and like none of the things are related, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, but it's just YouTube really wants to just have control over what you see rather than you have control, and the reason for that is because that way they can monetize it better. It's not because I'm gonna make everybody watch this video about cooking or something. It's just that.
I heard this kind of terrifying element of algorithms where it's like part of the radicalization that happens to people is because of the fact that like the algorithms themselves, they're not about magically detecting who you are as a person and making a completely unique thing just for you. They're about trying to change you as a person until you fit into one of the existing buckets that they know how to react to, and then putting you down that pipeline more and more.
Maximizing profit through the process, and that's why radicalization happens.
Like they found categories that work where they can really effectively serve content to those people. So if you're not quite one of those people, they'll kind of just keep throwing stuff at you that will try to make you that person until they can most effectively serve content to you. Hooray!
Yeah, this is pretty much why my YouTube channel or my YouTube thing is just a mess. Like I don't know. Every video recommends to me is like, okay, you're kind of there, but almost every time it recommends me a video, I'm like, not interested. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what to do. Here's like videos you've watched before. Just watch those again, you fucking asshole.
Watch those again forever.
No. And then it gets to a point where I'm like, nah, I've already seen this. I'm not interested. And it's like, I don't know what to do with you. Just here's videos. Jesus, like get out of my face.
YouTube's amazing at thinking you really want to watch videos you've already watched again.
Yeah, but
especially when they're my videos.
Like, it's fun that like it's like I said, it tries to like, hey, you watch this one thing, please just watch this. I know you'd like this. And it's like, nah, I don't want that. It's like, I don't know what else to give you. Here's like a video from 20 years ago. Please watch it. And I'm like, I don't want to watch that either. It's like, all right.
You're not saying the thing that
like my
really
top,
gets
my
on my
top
nerves.
video, like my top video right now is a recommendation from like a 4-year-old Worthy Kids video. Like I've already seen that, and it also came out 4 years ago. So why are you recommending this to me? But it's like I don't know what else to give you.
It's a Worthy Kids video. Watch it again.
Yeah, but also then you like look at the next one, and it's like it's like a video that came out yesterday, and then the next one is like, oh, video came out like 2 weeks ago. It's like, why would you give me this 4-year-old video? What
do you get those really stubborn videos where it'll keep suggesting you the same video for like a week or more?
Yes.
And you're just like, it's like, shouldn't you be taking it as data each time I don't click on this that I don't want to click on it?
So like I've made the mistake on accident to watch like 2 Rubber Ross videos for like Gardic phone, and now it's just like, okay, you're gonna watch this channel forever. You're gonna watch it, and so every time a video comes out, it's like, watch this new video, and it's like, I didn't subscribe to him. I don't want to watch his videos. I just wanted to see this one video. Like, sorry, I just want to check something out real quick. It's like, no. So every time on my front page is like whatever the newest Rubber Ross video is, it's right there. It's always at the top. Like, please, just you have to watch.
YouTube's also trying to send me down the Rubber Ross pipeline.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna go down it. I don't care.
I don't entirely know why it's happening.
It's because because this whole Gartic phone thing has got him like a huge amount of views lately. All of his Gartic phone videos are like hundreds of thousands of views, which is uncharacteristic from his channel when I checked. I was like, oh, what is like, did something happen? Is like, what's going on? It's like, no, just this whole Gartic phone thing is just blowing up like crazy. It's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I wanted to check it out too, I guess. My bad. And
right
so
back
like
into the previous discussion of just like, well, this thing did well. This is my life now.
Yeah. And so it's just like, oh, okay. So now, now he literally releases a new video like every day for this thing. But there's something
fascinating about the idea that like it could become this thing that dominates your life and becomes even your job basically. And at the end of the day, because it's not any kind of organic process of discovery, but instead is all algorithmically driven, it very well it's like the Skinner's box idea of just like randomized feedback to some extent, where it's just like like no one knows really why the thing that's happening is happening. Like the viewers didn't cause this and the creator didn't cause this. Just the creator thinks they're being encouraged by the viewers to make the content, and the viewers think that they're watching this great content because the creator wants to make it so bad or whatever, and it's like their special idea and they just happen to make a thing that's perfectly suited to their taste or whatever. But at the end of the day, the algorithm not only like bridged that gap, it kind of like taste maked the audience and like conditioned the creator to just make this thing. So bots are just creating art in a weird way that nobody acknowledges. Like everyone's like concerned about whether or not robots can make music. It's like, I'm sorry, via YouTube and Twitter and TikTok and everything, robots are creating most of our art. They're just using us as the tool.
Yeah. I use the don't recommend this channel button a lot.
I use that a lot.
Yeah,
I got most of them by now.
That's the thing. Is like,
that's what breaks it though. YouTube just forgets like 95% of its channels because it's like so constricted in its pool of recommended. At least it happens for me. I have 2 accounts and I keep track of them and the channels that it gets recommended. And there's literally no overlap. I watch different kinds of videos on those 2 accounts. And YouTube never recommends me anything outside of the norm. On my gaming, on my Kernel RPG account, it's always gaming and guitars. And on the other one, it's all politics and F1.
My phone is hard locked on a different YouTube account than my real one is. Because of like whatever fucking email that my like phone account is tied to or whatever the hell, and it's like too irritating and annoying to fix because it's on a Google platform itself because it's an Android, so it doesn't want you to fuck with it. It just wants you to accept that that's your real account now. And I've never gone through the hoops to figure out how to fix it or whatever. So as a result, it just gets microcosm of like because I'm home all the time. I barely ever touch my phone's YouTube app for like any reason. And whenever I do, I'm like, this is a horrible way of experiencing YouTube. Thank God I don't have to do this most of the time.
It's terrible. It's a terrible app. It's just
there was like a couple of times where I listened to like a Lindsay Ellis video or a Jenny Nicholson video while I was driving. Like I just like put it on the background instead of like a podcast or something, or like something's broken or I just really, or I saw it go up and I really wanted to listen to it, but I had to go somewhere for like 2 hours. I was like, time to go on this 2-hour drive. I guess I'll just run this Jenny Nicholson video while I'm going. And now what happens is my fucking phone just suggests random videos from their channels forever as like pop-up notifications on my phone.
Oh no.
Because I've used YouTube so little on my phone, it will literally just generate pop-ups over and over again for like watching a Jenny Nicholson video or something just over and over again because it has nothing else to work with. And it's like she doesn't even make videos that often, so it'll just pick one. It'll just pick a video to suggest and just run with it. It's really fucking annoying actually.
Yeah.
But like my phone's just a series of pop-ups that are stupid and broken, and you
should disable the pop-ups. I think you can disable them.
My phone's just bad. It runs badly. It crashes when I'm browsing Twitter, which is like it's like actually like a great feature to make you stop using Twitter. It's a pretty good idea. I recommend having a bad old phone that crashes more. When I used to play Pokemon Go, it ran at like 10 frames per second. My phone doesn't automatically read QR codes, so I have to download a QR code reader and like use that because the camera app doesn't do that. It just doesn't automatically sense a QR code, and video games use them, so I kind of need to know how to read them sometimes.
I think you need a new phone.
Yeah, but then money.
Like
It's like, is this important? It's like one of those things where like I think I'm sure I can afford it, but is it worth it to buy a new phone? I mostly use it for texting family and browsing Twitter too much, and like, do I need these things to be better? Honestly, the biggest incentive to have a better phone is just to have a better camera, because the camera on my phone's trash.
Yeah,
I mean, security is an important thing as well.
I focused mostly on just I wanted a phone that a small phone that supports 5G and can play YouTube videos, and that's it. I don't need anything more than that. And that still was like, I felt kind of like I paid too much money for what I was asking for, and I don't know. At the end of the day, I think like just
I
buy
asked,
a phone
what is
when
your
you need
cheapest phone? And then I saw the sales representative's face drop. And their customer service phone. Their customer service attitude just went off a cliff. Like they became significantly less interested in like being that friendly. And we just kind of got through it, and it was really funny. Because last time I needed a new phone was because my old phone literally bricked, which is usually when I get a new phone, is when the previous one just turns into a piece of plastic that doesn't do anything anymore. And it was right when I was starting to do this full time, so years ago now, like back when Obama was president, I guess.
Oh my god! You still have a phone from back then? No,
yeah, I mean,
no wonder Twitter crashes.
Like the final months of it, I think, but still. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm on a shoestring budget here. I am making the ridiculous leap of leaving my government job to do YouTube full time, because it's overtaking the money that the government job's giving me, and I'm going to take this crazy risk. So I'm like, I was in a mode of like, I cancel every subscription I have for any reason, and just like get this. If I have to get a phone now, we're gonna get the cheapest phone. Like, we're just gonna make this work. So it was a bad old phone when I got it, like 5 years ago, probably. And it's still kicking. It's just that if you browse Twitter for about 15 minutes, it stops reacting, and then you're like, oh, here it comes, and then it gives you the isn't responding pop up. And then you close Twitter, and then you hopefully have the willpower to not open it again.
New phones, or at least new operating systems, have things that allow you to give you warnings when you use the same app or a certain app for a long time. You know, it's all configurable.
I feel like at some point you have to take some personal responsibility with what you do. You can't just keep relying
letting
on
your phone
robots
crash on you.
Yeah, well, you can't just keep letting like machines dictate your behavior.
Oh, they are.
It's like,
well, it's just
I know, but I'm saying like at some point it's like it becomes a little, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's kind of like it would feel like having a robot determine how much heroin you need to be taking in order to. And it's like at some point you have to go like, yeah, but should I be taking heroin? Like, you know, like you have to like start really assessing like, okay, I have this robot helping me manage this thing, but do I need to do the thing that I'm having it help me manage? Like, I don't know. I think about that. Like,
just go ahead and take some heroin.
It just,
this was a parody.
Just a little.
YouTube bot. Calm down.
No, it's not. Please, just take so much that you don't think about life anymore.
I said
to
that
the point where you
had
like
the reminder that
stars.
fucking YouTube is mad at this series specifically.
That's fine.
It can recognize that our podcast series is a series, and it specifically thinks that they're not ad friendly when all of my other content is.
It's probably
it
me,
might
honestly.
be my takes.
It's usually always me.
Or the communism.
Well, it's definitely not the communism.
I just got recommended the Sad Games top 10 games of Steam Summer Sale 2013.
That's the one where I say I want to fuck a video game or something.
That's like that was like 10 years ago. Wow.
Yeah,
18, it said,
That's-
yeah,
it's-
2013. Yes.
that's the funniest thing about that
Christ.
video is it keeps getting views, and it's like it's for a sale that's over. Like
I guess
most of the
because
views on that
because-
video are from after the sale ended.
Because it has the
Right.
word Steam sale, which is something that will always exist for time immortal.
Yeah,
Right
it's-
after
so,
that,
like-
it recommends me Skyrim character creation tool, Khajiit.
Beautiful.
I love it.
God, I'll never get over how popular that stupid video is.
It's I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't at some point it doesn't matter anymore. I look at my sidebar of like recommended videos and it's just all of it's mostly inconsequential noise to me and I ignore it and I just go back to finding the thing that I'm there for.
I'm always
Like,
afraid
whenever I
of
open
I'm always afraid of our old videos because it's like a looming threat of like, what did we say in them? What did we say in them?
Did you
That's
say you
fine.
wanted to fuck a video game?
I
I'm-
mean,
you
that's
said-
nothing.
I'm fine.
I'm worried about like just
I know, I'm just
shittier
kidding.
older me being like just making stupid mistakes and then them just
Did you
being
talk-
public forever.
Did
Like,
you
what
talk
did I
about
do?
helicopters like I did?
I don't. Oh, did you? Did you?
I
Did you
did.
say attack
Yeah.
helicopter jokes?
I did. I didn't understand what it meant. And then
Yeah.
oh, wait.
Oh yeah. No, for a long time you don't really get what it means, and even when you do kind of start getting what it means, there's still like, unless you like have a better until you have a developed understanding of what trans people are, you don't really still get what it means. And even for a while there was like a crossover of thinking it was making fun of people that think that they're like a blue tiger or something, but like for real. And it's like on some level there's like two skin belief systems that are actually legitimate cultural things, but then there's just a bunch of fucking meme furries online that just want to talk about how they're actually just a sparkle dragon for real, and those people
Yeah.
feel like what you're making fun of sometimes. But even then, and that still means spirited, but it's not bigoted
Yeah.
the way that because now,
other one,
yeah, 'cause
yeah.
when somebody says that on Twitter these days, they're talking about trans people explicitly, and like
Yeah.
your Ben Shapiro's will make the same joke over and over again, and it's just demoralizing. But like, yeah, people just uncritically say those things and don't understand even what it's about, let alone why it's offensive, because they don't even know what the people are you're talking about that are supposed to be the people that it's offensive to in the first place. So there's like layers of education to go through. But like also
Yeah, I
like
was-
we played a game called Autis Sim,
Oh,
and like
that's
I'm
a good
afraid
one.
to watch that video. That's like 9 years ago, I think.
I mean, it could
it's not
be
bad.
an
It's
educational
mostly
tool.
just it's
but
mostly
it-
just us going like, wow, this is kind of awful if this is what someone experiences every day.
Have you rewatched it
Like-
recently?
Yeah, I rewatched it because I sometimes they'll get comments on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that video exists.
Yeah.
And it's mostly just us going like,
a weird
God, this is
one-off.
just getting like worse and worse as time goes by. Can we like not go near these people? It's like making us unpleasant. Like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, in the,
it's
in the
just
early
doing
days,
its
we just
job.
did one-offs all the time, and it was just like, who
Yeah.
knows? They're just immediately forgotten to
yeah.
history.
It's I don't know. I guess I at some point I just don't I don't know.
Well, it is what it is,
I-
isn't it?
Like
At the end of the day.
I remember I know that like I've said stupid shit in the past, but I'm also not like going to I'm not gonna like there's no reason for me to like hide or pretend like I didn't do that. If someone's like, man, you said something terrible back then, it's like, yeah, probably did. And I don't have to believe the same thing now. Like just because I what as like a 10-year-old, you probably said like your mom smells like poopy dung bowls. And it's like I'm not gonna look at you at
Did
your
you
at
say
the age
that
of
about
20.
your mother?
But I'm not gonna like
Cancelled.
look at I'm not
Andrew,
gonna look
you're
at you at the age of
cancelled.
20 and be like, well, I
Mhm.
can't believe you fucking disrespected your parent like that, you goddamn piece of shit. Why don't you get off my planet? Like it's fine. You change as a person. The difference is like how you respond to that. Someone saying like, wow, you shouldn't have said this thing. That's fucked up. And being like, yeah, you're right. It is fucked up. I shouldn't have
also,
said that. Versus
like,
like,
I think-
no, fuck you. I have free speech. It's like, okay, well, that was the wrong choice. Like you had like a skill or like a dialogue choice here, and you picked the wrong one.
there is an important aspect to it that is around whether you cultivate an audience that wants that sort of content or whether you just have an offhand comment that reveals that you're not necessarily educated on a certain aspect of society or whatever. Because it's one thing, you know, we we all have limitations, and we record videos in we're so exposed. Like we're not, none of this is edited, none of this is rehearsed, and it's all off the cuff. And so it's a fertile ground for us just to have bad takes or say bad things. But at the point where we start to cultivate an audience that wants to hear us say bad things and have bad takes, I think that's the problem, really. Or
oh yeah, when you say something bad and then you double down on it, and then all the people that are happy that you said that thing all come around you and support you, and then you start making content for those people.
Yeah.
That's a pipeline.
It's fair to have hesitations about our old stuff. I feel that as well, but it's not. I think it's much more important to focus on the fact that the people who do get backlash for saying whatever they say, but the people who do get backlash tend to be people who do it consistently, and it doesn't matter if they're bigots or if they're fighting for justice. A lot of different people get backlash, and it tends to be the ones that do it consistently and just have channels around that. So it's fine. Except for the Steam Summer Sale of 2013. That's bad. The fuck video game thing.
How could we make that game, that movie, the video? There we go.
Video. I'm glad I've cultivated an audience of furries. The thing that I hate the most in this world. It's truly a perplexing dynamic. I honestly thought back in the day that shitty helicopter joke was related to furries. I thought it was great because I thought it was just relentlessly mocking them. I was like, yeah, good. They should be kicked down a peg. Good. I like this joke. And it was like, no, this is about people. It's like, ugh, I don't want it to be about people. It's boring.
Because furries are not people.
Yeah, I don't know. It's boring. It's boring to try to pick on normal human beings. It's so easy. But going after the people who are audacious about their dumb decisions in life are great. Those are the people you want to pick on. I don't know.
Audacious.
It's fine.
I feel like a lot of furries are self-aware of the absurdity of just the entire context, but then you'll randomly see that person on Twitter though that's like, "This is oppression. How dare you?" It's like, but okay, come on, man.
Oh my god, it's so great though. Those are the people that I live for. Those are the people that yes, thank God. Look at this perfect specimen of just pure just awfulness. Just put them on a wall, hang them up on the wall, and be like, this could be you if you don't change your ways. Get back on course. You just want to tap the damn picture. You're like, look at this guy. This is you. This is what you could be. Now knock it off.
We bronies will not stand for this injustice anymore.
Exactly. Anytime someone's like, I'm part of a fandom, I'm just don't do that. Get off that train. Go back to normal society, you monster. You know where you belong, and it's not here. It's just it's great. Especially
it was especially weird when bronies did it because
place.
So many of them were definitely 4chaners.
No, not definitely. They were. Just
that's just the same word.
No,
I didn't say maybe. Or
definitely,
probably. They were definitely 4chaners. 4chan is the reason why there was a weird subculture of adult My Little Pony viewers. That's where it came from. And them having them getting freaky and defensive was in its way the most bizarre irony.
I guess I don't know. It's a life. Is it worth
the
living? Probably
fucking
not.
Weird.
This was a problem we didn't have to deal with when everyone just kept to their own little town and everybody had their own these are the people no one talks to anymore in this town. But now it's on the internet and now they're everywhere. And you're like, oh God, there's now we get to see everyone's town of people we don't talk to. Great. Awesome.
Yeah, that's
oh
Crazy
no, they're
Jack.
banding
He's
together.
he's always talking about the evil conspiracies. It's fine. Everyone just kind of tunes him out. Oh no, he found 100 more people like him.
Yeah, now it's like,
and
oh
they're
no,
all
now
gonna meet
Crazy.
up in this town tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like Crazy Jack's having a conspiracy convention. We got to get this out of here, and you got to like figure out a way to.
Yeah, suddenly, instead of being one ignorable lunatic, it's like now you gotta get educated on all of Crazy Jack's dog whistles. You gotta figure out all the weird code he's speaking in now because it's actually a threat to national security now.
Yeah,
Thanks, internet.
it's fine. It's fine.
You enabled the best and worst in all of us.
I don't.
But mostly the worst, because that's what gives you money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
does it enable the best? When does it enable the best?
I mean, there's like a lot of social progress that only exists because of the internet, because otherwise everyone would just be alone all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's plenty of good news. It's just the fact that the bad stuff spreads way faster because it doesn't have morals. Like, that's kind of baked in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great, but it's also great, but only sometimes great. You take the victories when they happen, because there's a lot of bad in between.
Yeah. Oh,
Speaking
boy.
of not great, we did a
Question?
a 3-hour Q&A podcast last week that was live, and I uploaded it, and I guess I did a very bad thumbnail for it because it got like half the viewership that these normally get. So if you missed that, go back and check last episode. We did a whole thing.
Wait,
I-
what?
I-
You did- wait, how is it? How is it a worse?
I just did a bad job.
Because it had text. I think it had text.
Just at
or
the end of the
many
day,
faces.
Oh, yeah.
we talk about algorithms and everything and so on. It's just like each Sunday we meet up to do this podcast for like 4 hours, and then I edit it, and then I render it overnight, and then that morning I like, in my haze of trying to wake up for the day, I try to throw together a title and a thumbnail for a podcast I already don't really remember. I'm like skipping around trying to come up with like, what is any topic that's worth making a thumbnail about from this video? And
All of the topic is what it is.
and
All
I
of
always
the
throw it together at the last minute. And the depressing thing is that 5% of the work that happens at the very end is the primary determinant of how well each video does. And when I'm on my hot shit, I'm all like, oh yeah, here's the fucking controversy about Aloy or whatever. Let's put it in the thumb. Like, you got to get that hot take thing in the thumbnail that people will click on, and then those lead to the most dislikes, but also it leads to the video getting like twice as many views. It's like, yeah, I'm mad that you made me click on this video by putting a thing in the thumbnail that I'd click on. How dare you? You should have made it
And
really
they find
boring,
out
so
it's
I
always the
ignored
same
it.
To get into the video, it's always the same frame for the entirety. They're skipping out.
Yeah.
When is the image gonna change?
Without fail, every time we criticize video games in any forum, that's when we get the most dislikes, which is in its own way funny.
We should talk nice things about video games.
We do
Let's say
a
nice
lot.
things about video games.
We have whole discussions about games we like a lot and so on. But just any
to get
criticisms,
more
like
likes.
our most hated video ever. Well,
Dang it.
in total votes is the Trump video, but in percentage of votes is still Genshin Impact. Those Genshin Impact fans, just like, people
God.
really mad we dislike that game.
I mean, it's popular. It's still going.
Yeah,
Got a lot of players.
Yeah, but that's rude. I mean, there's so many
It's-
people that play Genshin Impact because it's such a good game. It's been built from the ground up to be a revolutionary piece of cinematic masterpiece. And it
When I
has
said
so much
say
good
nice things about
mechanics.
games, I didn't.
You did.
Don't do the thing. Don't do the thing that I said.
Andrew's calling your bluff. He's gonna compliment
Dang
Genshin Impact now. Fuck you.
Dang Oh boy.
I think
I
you're
hate it
just
when
jealous
people-
because it's a good anime game, and you just wish that all of your crappy non-anime games were as good as Genshin Impact. That's all. Like, when was the last time you got a cute loli girl in Dark Souls? Exactly. That's why no one plays Dark Souls, because it needs more lolis. Like, come on, man,
No.
get your shit together. Like, that's the
I-
only reason people play video games, is because they want to collect a bunch of children and make them fight each other like Pokemon.
Collect a bunch of children and
I
fight.
like the child wars.
And then they could pay
child
money.
wars, please.
They could pay money to get those children dressed up in cute outfits that cost them like as much as, I don't know, food for
As
the
a
month.
game?
But it's
As
okay.
much as a
No,
game.
they got because Genshin Impact's free. Don't fucking video games are free. Okay.
God, isn't the new Yoko Taro game a fucking phone game gotcha?
Yes. Yes, it is.
God fucking damn it! Oh yeah, I remember because I was so fucking baffled on Twitter about it because of the fact that like every tweet I saw about it was people hyping it up. Like, oh my god, I'm screaming! I can't believe there's a Yoko Taro gacha game coming out. I'm so happy, and I'm like, we have fallen so far. What are we now as gamers? And like every in every category of people too, like just like everything's a fucking weird. Like I
feel that a lot. I've been feeling that a lot recently. I think this podcast has put me in the mind of trying to be more, at least aware of the overall culture.
Just
around
trends
video
and
games.
culture are so fucking weird. Like I was watching a George what's his middle name? George Schmidt video about influencers, and just kind of every time I watch a video about influencers, I just get recapped. I'm like, hey, well, here's what's going on in the weird part of the world you don't pay attention to, even though it's the same platform as your job and all that. And it's like every time I'm so fucking confused because like there's when you get to like your Kardashians and your Pauls and so on, like there's a lot of people that just, as far as I can tell, they don't even really like how do I put like your video essayists or your Philip DeFrancos or your other people, they'll like make a normal video and then put an ad in that video, and by many definitions that makes them an influencer. But then there's a whole other category of people that at this point they've hit a level of popularity where all they do is they just make ads that just kind of are their flavor of ad, but that's their content. Their content is ads. They don't like make anything anymore. They just ads all the time. They like and every video
growing.
is,
and the thing is they keep growing.
Yeah, like every video is just them like shilling their merch or just not doing anything. Like they shill their merch, or they product place like beauty products and like other stuff that people ask them to do, and then that's just it. Like that's their whole job. And then they keep growing and getting more popular, which that makes them make more money for their next merch placements. And it's like they just keep going and going, and I'm like, what's the point? What's the appeal? And it's like, as far as I can tell, it's just a vague like worship of celebrity, basically, just the concept of celebrity. And I'm like, but they don't do any, they don't give you anything to like any entertainment. Like there's nothing here. It's just it's just you watch them to get ads, to watch them to get ads, and there's no in between. And it's like, I brought this up because of the Genshin Impact thing, where it's like, once upon a time on YouTube, like in my early days, I was afraid to enable ads on my channel at all. I was terrified that would scare people away when I was starting my channel. And then when I started doing a Patreon, I was so like, I felt so guilty about like the entitlement of like asking for money to keep doing my job. And I thought that everyone would see this as a grand betrayal and I'd lose all these subscribers and so on. And I was like really thankful when that's not what would happen, basically. And nowadays it's like, that's expected, and like people practically cheer you on for getting like ad deals in your stuff, and like there's entire categories of content that don't even really exist outside of the context of just being an ad in itself. And in the video game analog, it's like once upon a time any DLC or microtransactions was seen as greedy bullshit, and it was like a little unfair sometimes, but also like not completely wrong. And nowadays people are like, no, I play the game for the loot boxes. I want the battle pass. It makes the game better. Gacha games, a genre that are defined entirely by just being exploitative bullshit versions of better genres. They're like, yeah, I want that more than the other genre that it's based on. Because like gacha is not a genre of video game. Like it doesn't have gameplay verbs. It's just another fucking gameplay genre with a shitty exploitative microtransaction system grafted onto it. You could very easily play the exact same kind of game without those, and they exist no matter what genre the gacha game is, including Genshin Impact and including all those ones where it's like, oh, you got card people that fight or something. Those are all already genres. but people specifically go to the genre that exploits them the most, and and to the point where they have a whole thing that they call a genre that's defined entirely by how exploitative it is, except it's good somehow. And I'm like, I don't understand what anyone uses. Like, at some point it's like, oh, maybe I'm not popular on YouTube because what's popular on YouTube is fucking horrifying, and I don't want to be that person. But also I'm like, why are you guys doing this to yourselves, guys? Stop it.
I think
there's
there's a certain aspect of community. Like, if all of your friends play a certain kind of game, or a certain game, not, it doesn't even have to be a certain kind of game, because it used to be that it would be a certain kind of game. Now everything is super multi-million companies and whatever. So it is either Fortnite or Genshin Impact or whatever. So if all of your friends, and obviously I'm talking about children here, not necessarily, or people maybe in college also probably still feel this.
No, even just straight up adults. I'm in a household full of like 30-year-olds, and I see their friend groups and so on, and yeah, they all just swarm to the same zeitgeist game all at once, over and over again. Like, yeah, I have walked in on people unironically playing Raid Shadow Legends, and just been like, this is how far we've fallen.
Oh my god.
I don't understand.
This is how far we've fallen, yes.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the process for that fall has to do with the sort of social pressure. So at the end, like, it isn't so much, for sure, you're still playing Raid Shadow Legends, but you're playing with your friends, or you're not necessarily with your friends, but you're playing.
Like, you're experiencing the thing that people are talking about.
Yeah. So it's sort of community building in that way, but that, I think that is part of the reason why people tend to have difficulty breaking away from more exploitative games like that. Like, I've played, it's been years since I played it, but remember, what was it, Clash of Clans, I think it was? Very famous game. It's still going, probably. And I used to play it a little because my friends played it, and I would spend like 20 minutes a day messing around with that thing. And the progression was, like, it's all based around paying for boosts and all that sort of stuff, because it's the typical free-to-play game without loot boxes. But it's the old school kind of free-to-play game. Still very exploitative, but, you know, it's not, at least it doesn't have loot boxes. But the moment I realized that they would never improve the game in any meaningful way because of the way the monetization works, and because of the way the game feels very different and very rewarding when you pay for it and get the boosts, that's the moment I realized I guess I don't have anything else to do over here.
Run!
And yeah, the process of stopping playing that game is it's like I'm breaking up with my friends in a way. It's like my friends would be like, "Oh, look at my fort over here," or whatever, and I'm like, "Yeah, I stopped playing." And it, you know, obviously we had that thing going with, and all of a sudden I don't do it anymore. It's there's social pressure behind,
it's like
and companies know this full well, obviously.
It's like why I played Pokemon Go at one point was like, admittedly, there was novelty in that it was just a weird new experience, essentially, because nobody had played fucking Ingress. No one knew that game existed. So like Pokemon Go was like a weird new experience, just to kind of dabble with and be like, what the fuck is this, like, life? Like, what is this thing? And then and obviously, like, seeing hordes of people playing it in public was a unique, bizarre gaming experience to just kind of walk around in. But to some extent, yeah, there's just that aspect of like, this is a shitty game, and I'm playing it partly just because you talk about it online with your friends or whatever, or in person, and then you like go play it together and so on. And like there's an element where like I would like, even after I'd moved, I would send messages like the group chat with like Marty and Nick and everybody, just because like sharing in some way my experience of Pokemon Go was integral to the idea of playing it anymore. Like I needed to like be in some kind of contact with the friend group that I played it with before, even though I had moved to a different town hours away and wasn't playing with them anymore, because otherwise it's like it wasn't the game wasn't complete. Like it wasn't the full experience.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, that's how I know how stuff's like popular half the time, or like how popular something is I see it permeate into like the normal video game people in my life that play like 2 games total. And you're like, oh, they're all playing Among Us. I think this might be a big deal beyond just being a viral YouTube thing or whatever.
The thing is, like, if you want to go the other way, it's not necessarily easy, because when you said the word the normal people, I think, or did you say the normals? Did you say it like that?
I just said normal people.
Normal people.
Normies?
Okay. Normies.
Let's talk about the normies.
If you go into Steam or into GOG.com,
People that read IGN on purpose.
If you go into any storefront, you always have sales on PC, and specifically for PC, there's always sales. I'm sure for consoles that's the same as well. But on PC, if you have a PC, if you play on a laptop or a desktop computer or whatever, if you know where to look and if you know what to look for, you can always at any one time find amazing deals. Like just now, I went up and looked at GOG.com and I found 4 amazing games for $10 more or less. Like Stardew Valley is on sale for $8. Slay the Spire, $10. Frostpunk, $9. They're all great games. They're all games that are gonna last you hours and hours. And if you don't play more than a couple of hours a day, these are gonna last you a week or a month. And it's just,
people always talk about how there's not enough games, basically.
But the thing is, you need to know what to look for. Like I know these games. I know the reaction, and I know my taste, obviously. But if I look at the upcoming tab on GOG, I don't know those games because I am not following the hype. So all of that is just, I don't know. Is it a good game or is it a bad game? It's just the title and just some pictures. So it requires you to be in the medium and just in the know to be able to have an alternative. So it's like a double whammy. On the one hand, it isolates you. Games that are popular like Genshin Impact and whatever isolates you because they create the social pressure to play with your friends. And on the other hand, the fact that you're isolated also alienates you a little bit from just having this sort of like broad perspective on the medium on video games to know other potential games. It used to be that it wasn't this difficult because first off, I think gaming magazines used to be a lot more popular, and
there was a lot less games back then.
And exactly. There were just absolutely.
And to some extent, a lot of people still live in that world where it's just AAA games. Like that's what exists until like you have. Like, I mean, and you can basically just watch when an indie game breaks into what is essentially just being a AAA game. Like it just it hits like the normal gaming sphere because just everyone's discussing it. Like it hits a critical mass like Among Us or Slender Man or Undertale and so on. And like that's just a different it just becomes a different category of game as a result. It gets like it passes the gate into public discourse and everyone starts playing it, whereas other stuff only exists within like niche audiences permanently. And there's no real fix for that, especially since like there's no gaming publications to talk about anything that are like as centralized as they used to be.
The only fix is to curb the power that marketing has on publicity, and it doesn't just apply to video games; it applies to society at large. But the uneven power that big companies have to just drown out everything else means that it is really difficult to break into the scene with any game, and there are a lot of really good games that just either never get made because it's impossible to find funding for smaller games, or the really good games that do come out and they just get they don't get enough sales to turn a profit or to get a sequel or to get more games from the studio. And obviously,
there's probably something to be said about how like publications are online now, which means that there isn't a magazine anymore, which means you don't like get this one big thing that like where all of it is of like semi-equal importance because it's all one publication that you read through as a physical document. Like nowadays it's online pages, which means you just click on like the tweet or whatever that already interested you. So it's like a self-perpetuating loop of like you've already been hit by some level of marketing, which is why you're clicking on this tweet about a publication in the first place. Like no one's sitting here like following the IGN account and clicking every single tweet every single time and reading every single article the way that you would like potentially do with a like Game Informer magazine or whatever back in the day.
And And even if they did, the amount of articles published on one single game it differs depending on how much traffic each game will drive. So if you did click on every single link by whatever publication, you would just get a lot of Activision stuff or a lot of Ubisoft.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
It's like this is actually a
still wouldn't
weirdly
be the same.
coherent podcast that keeps folding into its original thesis over and over again. Like, because like what happened is that it used to be that magazines were essentially the tastemakers. Like they would just tell you what's going on with gaming, and they were the primary source of information you had, essentially, because of a lack of online information or other ways of getting this information around. And so as a result, they would be where you would learn about everything in the first place. And then like their one way of like teasing you in, their clickbait, was to have like the exclusive on their cover, where they were like the one magazine that has this information about Fable, the upcoming Xbox game or whatever. Like we're the first people to have it, so it's on our cover. And that was like their one little clickbait to get you to read everything else inside. But nowadays, every one of those publications, which is online, they're just us now. They're just following motivations the same way that Game Theory and all these other people do, where they just chase clicks themselves. So their entire purpose has inverted, and they're not there to show you stuff for the first time most of the time, except for their most loyal fans. And most of the time, they're just like telling you, they're telling you about the things that you already kind of know about most of the time, because they have to chase. Because that's what you do, like as a Let's Player and so on. You're always kind of piggybacking on the marketing arm of various companies, essentially. Like if you cover a AAA game while it's coming out, then you're riding the hype wave of its release schedule, and you're essentially professionally benefiting from how many ads they made for that game and how much of a wave there is around it right now, be it via advertising or like organic indie hype or whatever. And like that's just what all the publications do. Like they're chasing clicks. That's the only way to get their stuff. And then whenever anything does do well, then they're like, okay, how do I write 4 more articles about the same thing so they can also generate clicks? And if they see people get mad about something, even if that thing is them being mad about the clickbaiting or whatever, they'll just figure out how to recreate that anger again, because that's really effective for getting more money.
So basically, instead of being rewarded for doing something good, they're rewarded for doing something bad as well.
Yeah.
Because, I say bad because people are mad about it. In the sense, that's what I mean.
It's not really about informing, it's about surviving.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that when you have to decide between doing your job or keeping your job, you're always going to choose to keep your job, which for news isn't a great decision, because turns out keeping your job goes like completely against the point of your job.
Nowadays, online publications, that like they're basically designed to either chase popularity trends by just reporting constantly on the thing that you're already talking about, so that you look at them when you're talking about it and they can siphon money off of that, or they just stir up controversy on purpose a lot of the time.
Oh yeah,
like that fucking James Bond article that happened recently, where someone was like, Daniel Craig says a woman should never be James Bond, and I'm like, that's not what he said. That's not what he said at all. He said that he was saying that he said that instead of switching James Bond to a woman, it's kind of fucked up that there aren't like a bunch of equally valid female characters for women to play, which is like 500 times more nuanced than that buzz quote. But that quote gets all the clicks, and some of the clicks are from people being mad at Daniel Craig for a thing he didn't say, and some of them are being mad at the publication for misquoting Daniel Craig, and both of them are equally valid ad revenue.
Yeah, publications are figuring out what YouTubers have figured out 7 years or 8 years ago already. I mean, they've figured it. They've always figured it out. It's just that I think there's, to an extent, there's been a I say to an extent. What I mean to say is that I get the impression that over the last couple of years, people are a lot more online than they used to be. A lot of the people that used to just consume like stuff like Game Informer or GameStop or whatever on occasion, and just go and look for reviews on whatever website they remember off the top of their head, or look it up on Google or something, to when they heard of a new game. A lot of those people that would just be more casual in their consumption of those websites are now a lot more active in either communities online or on Twitter or whatever, or Facebook. So I think, like, I see more and more, basically. I see more and more gaming sites utilizing very aggressively their social media sharing, basically. And doing, like, that's half the job is it's not just to write the article, it's also to come up with the tweets or with the posts that are going to get you to go to that article, or the picture that it's like you can't quite tell what the picture is, so you click on it to open it, because obviously the picture shows more when you click on it, but no, it's a link. Gotcha. They do that a lot.
Yeah, there's a whole flavor of reporting that is basically people writing a clickbait headline and then working backwards from there. And then there's another flavor that is just people trying to write things, and then the editor writes ends up deciding the title and the thumbnail for them, and that could be just this this like almost like a betrayal of the original thing, and almost like a reverse of the entire original meaning.
Yeah.
You won't believe what happens next.
The next GTA won't be what you expect.
I can't believe the GTA 6 has terrible voice acting. Find out at 11 how we came to that conclusion, which is because we heard actually low kilobyte MP3 file that we stole from like a 4chan board, and we thought that was real. Oops, our bad. Well,
it's
fine.
Never gonna...
We don't have to fix this problem. We don't have to tell people we made a mistake. We'll just make a new article and say like, "Wow, GTA 6 fixed its audio. Good for them."
They're never gonna make GTA 6 though. It's never gonna happen.
It just gets exhausting. At some point, you have to just whittle things down to kind of only following the stuff that you care about. But that creates this like bubble. You like end up having to bubble yourself, because it's not that you don't want to hear conflicting opinions. It's that no one's actually offering anything. And it gets really frustrating the more you keep whittling it down, because you're like, okay, now I'm just getting news from one source. Maybe I should check around. And you look at somewhere else, you're like, oh, they just copied from that one source I read. Okay, well, I'm glad I found the news. Like it's like this never, I don't know. It is frustrating and annoying to try to keep yourself informed in a society that relies 100% on money to survive. And that's just
it corrupts every single institution to not make sense anymore.
Yeah, well, because it is not a successful business model to be for news. It is not successful business model for news to be profitable. Yeah. Because in order for that to happen, you have to just create such basically you have to turn into a tabloid. And tabloids don't exist because people believe them. They exist because they're like so ridiculously
because
stupid
it's entertainment
that people are reading them as if they're just like a TV show. And that's not news anymore. Now you're just like Fox News, which isn't a real news station. It's an entertainment station. Like
that people see as news, which is the problem.
But it's because they're allowed to call themselves that.
It has in the name.
But they're technically not so registered as a news agency. Yeah. So like
all of their primary people on their channel just aren't in any way reporters. They're all commentators. It's a network that's whoops all editorial. So it's just people
but like
reacting. They're basically vloggers that just are like riffing on stuff, except like they're all have a nightmarish lockstep agenda across the board that is making the world worse.
And it's crappy because you don't want to sound like one of those crazy nut jobs who are like, oh my God, you can't trust anything you read. But where do you get your news from? Like, you can't read it from Wall Street Journal. That's not a real publication anymore. You can't get it from New York Times. It's not a real publication anymore. Like, you can't the amount,
secret inner life of why Nazis are actually sympathetic. It's like,
great. You know what? Actually, I think rich people deserve to exist. And you're like, okay, well, this is basically a calling card for me. You're just
If
putting a
Bill
flag
and
up saying,
Melinda
like,
Gates-
not here.
If Bill and Melinda Gates can't keep a marriage together, what hope do the rest of us have?
Oh no, if Grimes
seen
and
those?
Elon can't keep a marriage together,
That's
what
the one.
hope do we
That's right.
have? Like, it just keeps happening and repeat. And it's just like, you can go down the hole slower and go like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to read the fucking California Times. Maybe I'll read the Sacramento Times. And you look and you're like, oh,
It's owned by the
actually,
same corporations.
this isn't any
Yeah.
better. Okay, let's go deeper. Let's go to like the Roseville Times. And you're like, actually, Roseville's
Here's an
just a shitty
article
city.
about how
Okay,
it's
wait,
really
let's go
hard to be a landlord, actually, where you have to sell your second yacht sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like but so then, at some point you just basically turn into I'm following this one guy on Twitter because I trust what he says, and I don't care where he's published at, just so long as I read whatever article he's recently written for whatever publication accepts him.
And that's
Because,
how you
like,
get
I know-
stuck in a fucking Tim Pool space.
Yes, but that's the thing. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. But what else do you do? Because every time I go to like the front page of CNN, I'm basically looking at a fucking pile of trash, and then somebody happened to leave a full course meal at that hasn't been touched. And you're
check
like,
out our
oh,
new
okay,
check out our new expose on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where we're actually just reprinting their press materials.
yeah,
which is just
but it's like,
literal
happens so much.
propaganda about the lies about how they're so great.
but then
And
there's
we're
like,
not going to
but
critically look
every,
beyond that at all.
but then every so often there'll just be like this one article that's like, oh, that's it. Wake up, everybody. There's journalism happening. And like, then you read it, and it's like,
Apologies,
wow, that
everyone.
was,
He's been fired.
yeah, it's like, wow, that was really informative. And then you like click on that guy's little name in the website, and it's like, this is his only article. And you're like, fuck, like, you're just like, well, cool.
He only could
it's
get away with that
infuriating.
because he's like some kind of guest speaker, basically, and not
Yeah,
actually an
basically.
employee.
And it's, I don't know. Again, I'm sure news exists. I'm sure there's, plenty of good news articles, but boy, is it just not pleasant to find them anymore.
Yeah.
And like, where are you going to go? You can't, like, it's not on Twitter, it's not on Facebook, it's not on Instagram, it's not on any social media sites, Reddit.
whenever you see all this,
LinkedIn,
this
whatever,
worrying
like-
information and how it's discussed and so on, and how inaccurate it is, just think about the boomers that are just fucking getting it drip fed to them all the time. Just
I prefer
And
Or
they don't
like
even
they-
mind.
I love their little reality. They're like kind of cute dystopian bubble that they think is like coming at them at all times, but it's been like 50 years now and it just still hasn't shown up. It's like imagining watching a steamroller coming at you and someone saying like, it's gonna kill you, and you go, oh god, it's gonna kill me, but it's like 20 miles away from you, and there's you could just walk away at any time, but you don't. You just keep standing there like, it's gonna kill me. And it's like, what is your life like?
Chosen one, I'm coming.
Yeah, but it's like, does the adrenaline ever die down? Do you ever like sit down and kind of think about what's going on before it comes at you? Do you like, because at some point it must be kind of exhausting to hear that like your world's going to end because of these people, and it just never ends and they keep existing. And then like it literally comes in like this cycle of like, okay, that person's gonna do it, that person, now we're back to the original people that were gonna ruin your world. And you're like, oh shit, I remember that. You talked about that 20 years ago.
They're back.
Like, yeah, oh no, they're back. We didn't stop them. Like,
It's metal again. Metal's doing it. I promise.
It's just such a weird.
D&D.
I don't know. It's just like it must be nice. Is all. It must be nice to like have that kind of goldfish memory where you're like, oops, I forgot about those people. Oh no, they're back. Like. It's just you never
It's
follow
an
through anything that's
experience.
told to you.
At this point, it's a daily conversation where, like, every time that I am on the phone with my mom, for example, she'll always put a remark in about how I don't watch the news, and it's like, there's no upside. It's this one
pretty dystopic,
horribly
actually.
inefficient way of receiving information. Just this live 24-hour time wasting channel that's 50% advertisements and 50% like a combination of like sensationalist fluff and like anger, and then just like reruns, and then time like I don't know why anyone like there's such a lack of respected time to even be watching anything that's just like a forever feed that just has to fill that time up forever in real
Yeah, that's a
time
huge
as opposed to like a series of videos of like, here's the new news today and so on. But yeah, it's so aggressively like what is it? There was these debates between, I think it was between Bill O'Reilly and Jon Stewart back in the day or something. But like Jon Stewart, I felt like really was specifically accurate about it, where it's like, it's not even always that the media specifically lies or even has this coherent agenda, but in many cases, it's just sensationalist and lazy. It's just chasing attention as in whatever is the most like energy efficient way possible. Like it's just not aligned. Its motivations are not aligned with actually doing the thing that is what's supposed to be its job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we just get to be sad about that all the time. So that's cool.
It is dread-inducing, though, the notion of, to me, I would say, not necessarily to you, but the notion of your mother complaining to you that you don't watch the news. I'm fortunate enough to not have anybody tell me that. But it's like, the news is entertainment. It is it's the tabloid problem. Anything that is, or any institution that is accountable to or accountable for their profit it's just, it has to rely on entertainment. And it's not that they're saying lies, although many of them say lies, but it's the problem is that they twist reality in a way that that will first off will get you trapped, and also will never get you anywhere, in whether it is for stuff that actually matters or for things that are not even real. It's always counterproductive. And I think like we've strayed a little bit from video games in this regard, but
it's about the clickbaiting. We never got off the original topic.
It's the thing is, like, you always need to be your own person, need to be aware of how you feel about reality, what your opinions are, and question yourself as a person. Am I correct about the things that I am thinking? And
spoiler alert, you're not. You're
none
always
of us
wrong.
are.
No.
None of us are.
Then you'll come back and watch a video that of you saying something that you thought was politically correct in like current year, and 10 years later you'll look like the terrible next coming of a supervillain. And it's fine. That's okay. That's how things progress. That's normal. Like, you know, those terrible human beings that created this country we live in, or that me and Keith live in, are terrible human beings. But that's okay, because, you know, times change. And so
I think the best news in the way, or the news that are most relevant to anybody are always going to be related to your community. And it could be an online community, but it could be a local community as well.
What is a community?
It's, for example...
Is it something I can kill? Because that is why I exist.
What I mean by community is things that affect you, but the things that may affect you, but may also affect people that you know instead of you. And that's always going to be something that news as entertainment is going to distance itself from, because the point behind a news feed, whatever news feed it is, isn't to make you feel like you're part of the conversation. The point is to make you think that you're the center of the world. I'm not explaining. Like what I'm trying to say is that you basically are stolen your voice is stolen in news, and it creates a detachment from like politics. People feel detached from politics because they don't have a voice in it. But it creates a detachment from video games as well, because in AAA games, because, you know, they'll do whatever they do, and there's no voice behind a writer's account on GameStop that ever wants players to tell them what they have to write. And the same applies to politics, and the same applies to basically any sort of publication that does things for profit. What they want you to look at is stuff that, sure, affects you, but you don't have control over. Because if you do have control over, you're as a consumer or as a news watcher or whatever, you just immediately stop being Like you stop being volatile, or not volatile. What's the word? I'm not explaining myself very well, but you stop malleable, I suppose, is the word that I'm trying to say. You stop being a consumer and more of an agent, I suppose, or a activist in a way. And that's why it's so easy for people to conflate things like people who are like trans people and just conflate just being trans with being a trans rights activist. In a lot of cases, they tend to they can just fall into that role out of unfortunate necessity. But anybody that goes against the grain, whatever it is, immediately stands out as an activist sort of person, even though they do not do anything, or I say literally do not do anything. I mean, they might not do anything.
It's like
and
how
they
the
still
most,
stand
the
out
most
as an
famous, the most infamous feminists that are used for all the clickbait thumbnails on YouTube are people that no one even knows the name of. Like, they're not activists. Nobody.
Yeah.
You basically never know who those people. Like Big Red, I think we talked about before, is what they called the angry looking woman with red hair and the thick those like thick rimmed glasses. And it's like, she's not like Sarkeesian or something. She doesn't have like a channel to go check out. She's like, you don't know her Twitter account. She's just she's like as a piece of iconography, and she's used as like an example to be mad at. And it just chases her forever, I guess.
What I mean to say is that the agency that you have is so little in our world. Our agency is so little that the moment you have the least bit of a counter to your community or to whoever you're dealing with, you stand out very much, I feel. And it didn't necessarily used to be like that when news were less international, for one, but also what I'm trying to say is that community is such an important aspect of you receiving information, because you share it with the people you deal with, and because you talk about the news, you talk about, and you those are shared worries. Like all the news that I consume personally, I basically don't talk with anybody about them in meat space. It's
because like almost
online.
everyone you would talk to would react viscerally to your news sources.
Yeah, that too. But what I'm trying to say is that I feel that an alienation. I feel I feel why that happens, and it happens because the communities that I've gotten myself into are just detached from the people who are closest to me in a lot of cases, in terms of physical space. And so it's very easy for that. It's also very comfortable in a way, because you just don't have to engage. But it's also very isolating. And I think that's why in a way, and there's people who know a lot more about this than can explain this themselves properly, which I can't. But that's why there's a certain amount of dependency on news channels, on certain news channels that sort of fabricate that dependence, because they know it isolates people, and they know that.
Oh yeah.
For one, it's rewarding.
It's how cults work, is to specifically cut you off from anybody that would in any way contradict that information.
Yeah, it builds a new community.
So you demonize any group of people that might not agree with that particular idea, and then they're crazy, and now you can just tell them anything.
Yeah,
tell them that your kids that have better experience with different groups of people because they go to college, and that leads to them having encounters with people that you don't, and then learning from them. Just tell all your viewers that those people are being brainwashed by evil professors, and that means that you don't have to listen to your kids now, and they're actually been ruined. And whose idea was it to send you to that college anyway, that college that you were raised to go to, so it's not a complex mystery really why you went to college. There's this self-defeating fucking paradox loop, but it works on people because it leads to what is always the easiest thing to appeal to, which is the idea that you're already right and you don't have to change, and you can just feel good about that. And it's actually other people that are wrong, and they should be demonized for ever making you question anything.
I feel like you should just go with the angle. If someone says that you've been brainwashed and are crazy, then just go with it. Just accept that you are brainwashed and crazy from now on.
Bender taking photo. Neat.
Yeah. Neat. They're
I'm insane.
I don't know. There's a if I always am very questionable of people who are telling me that I am or that to not trust somebody. Like it seems weird to blindly believe anybody who would tell you to not trust somebody.
Yeah. Until you know
like
why.
usually it's like yeah, but like
Fox
even
News, we have because someone will be like, I see the contradiction here. It's like, no, we have decades of experience with Fox News.
Also,
but,
it's like it's.
But
been,
there's still
remember
a difference. It's like
Xbox, the Mass Effect story.
Yeah, but again, there's also we're talking about like people in particular. Scene. You know, like you can look and say like, well, see that guy in particular is a liar, and I can prove that he's a liar, and like so. Then you can come up and say like, what about this guy? I don't know, never heard of that guy. Like the guy who, what was it? I still don't even know his name because he's such like an inconsequential waste of atomic space that like I don't know who that guy was that did the for the presidential debate. He was the mediator, I guess. Like,
I have no idea.
I don't remember who his name was, and it doesn't matter because he's a nobody.
Isn't there like a different one every day or something?
No, there was the one that like came from. It was like one of the guys on Fox News or something. That
Chris Wallace, I think.
And
he's like the only person that's left. All the ones that we grew up with, they're just gone.
Yeah,
like, this guy had a sex scandal. This guy had another reason he got fired. Like from like
mostly sex scandals.
Glenn Beck to Bill O'Reilly to all the most infuriating people. Now we just have like boring old Chris Wallace who just has 100 other problems, but he's not gone yet.
Yeah, and so maybe it is Chris Wallace. That probably is. But
he's like slightly jowly.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's him. Yeah.
And he looks like the stereotypical newscaster to some extent.
Maybe. I'd have to see. Let's see. Sorry, give me a second. Chris Wallace. Let's see if this is the guy. Yeah, that guy. This guy looks like a literal waste of human creation. And like I don't know anything about this guy though. Like he is unmemorable. He just vanishes from existence the moment he comes into it. And is he a liar? I don't know. If someone told me he was a liar, I would probably not believe them because I've never met this guy. I've never even listened to a 30-second clip of this guy. But if someone came up and told me like Tucker Carlson is a like a savant, it's like I don't think you're talking about the same person I am. I think I've seen a different person than you have, and I can prove that with like videos that he keeps taking of himself for some reason and letting it get broadcasted on television. There's just like but again, you just got to question that stuff. You got to like go back and see who's telling you to not believe who and why they're telling you that, because most of the time it's pretty weird. I don't know. Like you can, it's I don't know. I guess the point I'm making is like just always think for yourself. Always just look up stuff. Always double check, triple check, do research. If it sounds like a lot of effort, that's on purpose. That's like if it takes a lot of effort to figure out how to be informed, it's because someone doesn't want you to be informed. Like so you need to be informed. Like it's a pretty obvious conclusion here, but yeah, I don't know. It's just. It's always funny. It is always funny to keep seeing the idea that like, oh, you were just manipulated or you're brainwashed or you're something. It's like, I do not think that that's how this works. Like you would know if someone's brainwashed. Trust me. It's scary when someone's brainwashed. Like they are terrifying creatures. There's like this almost like slug brain type of deal where you like anything you say to them you can see just cannot register as language to them. They just don't comprehend the thing you're saying and they just keep on repeating the thing that they've been told to, and you're like, oh my god, this is like a zombie but worse, because I don't have the legal authority to get rid of it off the planet. Like I just have to endure it.
It's
sitting
like
here.
a zombie but worse.
Yeah, like at least a zombie you're given free reign to get rid of off your planet. You're like,
zombies don't exist.
Well, yeah, but zombies in all movies, zombies are like, yeah, nobody wants them, just get rid of them. But no one, you can't say that about just like a person who joined a cult. No one who joins a cult is like, all right,
I don't like the dehumanizing jokes though.
What?
This
dehumanizing zombies?
No, no,
Yeah,
it just
it's
it
worse than
rides a
zombies.
line. You're like, at least I can kill zombies. Like, don't
True,
don't
that
go
is
down
true.
this line. This isn't a line
I
to
guess
go
that's-
down.
guess that's an extreme. I mean, more of like you can't solve that problem though. Like, there's nothing you can do about this person who has terrible, like literally dangerous to themselves and others' views, except for just like hope you can societally box them up and no one interacts with them. Like, you have to try to like, no, don't look at it. Just kind of just look away. Like, don't give it attention. It's bad for you. But like, that's not true. It's never going to not be true. It's always going to exist. And so then you have to endure this like kind of, it's like I guess like a disease. It'll always be around because there will be somebody who doesn't want to just not ingest this poison. And
I
you
think
can't yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
You go. Go for it.
Just to go back to stay anchored to the cult aspect that people can fall into. What happens a lot of the time, it's not all the time, but it is a lot of the time, is that a lot of the cult-like mentality that people develop, depending on whatever cult they belong to, is it's grounded on hatred. And it's not. A lot of the time, it's just bigoted hatred, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a matter of race or nationality or whatever. It can just be ideology. The hatred of the people with a certain ideology itself. A lot of the times, it is indicative of cult-like mentality. And so, like what you said there, it's easy to tell when a person is in a cult. Like that is so often a recurring thing that happens. But it is very difficult to get people out of that mentality once they get in there, because the hatred they feel is real. Like they do feel that. And for you
watching someone trying to function while having intense cognitive dissonance, this can be fucking fascinating. Because like. Mm-hmm. What happened is we were at peak, at least especially in the United States, we were at like peak division in our communities, where there was like, we're basically more divided than we've ever been before, and people straight up don't trust people of the other side and so on. Like it's more threatening than it's ever been, basically, beyond just like disagreement or whatever. And a lot of that is Trump's fault, and a lot of that is the rise of like Gamergate and fascism and Proud Boys and all this other shit that's been going on. And that's bad. But then we went straight into the pandemic while we were already in that state. Like we were more like, people are like, how could this get so politicized and so on? I'm like, how could it fucking not in that fucking ecosystem? We were the most divided we've ever been. And then we were like, okay, so here we have a tribalist thing that signifies to everyone. Every time you go outside, you're going to be signifying you're either someone who wears masks or someone who doesn't wear masks. And you literally can't opt out of that binary. You literally are always choosing one side or the other. And it's just like this endless, like I've talked about before, how like, or I'll have to comment somewhere about this too, about I had this customer service experience where I was just trying to clean out, because like my grandmother was moving out and she's going into a home because she's in a state. And like we just needed to deal with all the stuff in her house, and like some of it was going to go for sale, some of it was going to be kept, and some of it was going to be donated. I'm just trying to take this place to a donation place, like just some of the stuff that's just going to go away because something has to do with it, or it's going to be in the garbage basically. And I'm at this place, and it was like the worst fucking customer service experience I've ever had, basically. And I'm not a Karen kind of person or whatever, where I'm like ever raising up any kind of stink. I'm so fucking patient because I worked at Best Buy and I get it, but these people were not like overworked and I'll get to you in a minute or whatever. Like it was like they were just shitty. Because step one, I go in and they just fucking ignore me. There's a whole circle of people just sitting around talking, and eventually I just sort of address the person that's sitting down that everyone's standing around. Because I just figure, oh, I guess they're the one that works. No one's acknowledging me for like, I'm just standing near them for like 5 minutes, and they keep looking at me every now and then. And like after 5 minutes, I acknowledge the person who's sitting down that everyone's around, because I figured they must be the establishment person. They're not. Eventually, after confusing, not knowing who to address for a while. One random person in the circle actually starts like interacting with me as a customer, or whatever you call people that are just donating to a place. And it was like, what? Why the fuck was this so hard? But then this motherfucker just pretends they can't understand me while I'm wearing my mask, and they just keep doing it over and over again, no matter how clearly and carefully and loudly I'm speaking, until I remove my mask. And it's like, I'm just trying to take care of my infirm grandmother. I don't need this fucking culture war to be in the way of this. It shouldn't be a fucking
Jesus
fight.
Christ.
Who wears a mask? We're in a fucking pandemic, but of course it's a small town, and even in fucking California, where we're supposedly ultra liberal, except for the part where we have so many conservative governors and so on. The moment you get out of any like city, you go driving through the woods or the hills, you get to those like small towns that you'll like pass in only a minute if you don't like turn on that street. There's like this shop street that you turn that has the major thoroughfare, and then if you turn left or right, suddenly there's a bunch of like houses and like the rest of the community and all that, and the schools. But like the part that touches the main road is like a minute long. You go in any of those places, you see signs everywhere that's like, this is an anti-COVID bar, and they don't mean like we're taking precautions. They mean
they don't
like
mean use a mask.
They mean no
it's
masks.
actually
Yeah, and
they
you'll
mean
see
pro-COVID.
signs about evil tyrant Governor Newsom, and it's like there's so many reasons that Newsom is wrong, but it's not those reasons. Not the part where they're telling you to treat the pandemic seriously. And it's like these people like are so ingrained with their tribalism, and their sense of local community is so built entirely around the idea of being anti any of these COVID things, that they're just actively hostile to anybody that walks in and like wears a mask or something. Like they'll treat you as the enemy, and they'll basically just antagonize you until you go away, or until you like succumb to taking the mask off. And it's like, this is just fucking weird and gross, but like that's the level of what it is. And yeah, it's like, I'm not just being discriminated against because of my sex or my like my sexuality or my gender identity or my skin color or any other thing. It's literally ideology. It's an ideological war happening over the stupidest fucking topic, and I'm so fucking tired, and we're almost 2 years into this now, and I want to die.
I mean, don't do that. Don't
I have
die.
never. It's weird too, because I have never had any experience with this problem, and I feel like I go out pretty frequently, and I have never encountered these like mystical creatures that are, I guess, very aggressive towards masks. But I guess I'm also not like the I guess I'm not somebody who would probably respond properly to it either. So maybe I just don't. Like, I just kind of do what I need to do regardless of how someone would act with it. Where it's like
things are just a lot.
Yeah, like
Just a lot.
if like in the situation you're in, I probably would have just like dropped the stuff on the ground and walked away. Like, I
Yeah,
would've
fuck it.
just,
It's
like,
your
here you
problem
go.
now. If it's
Yeah,
litter or
exactly.
whatever.
It's like,
Just
well,
start driving.
what are you gonna do?
Just start driving up to their building over and over again, and just throwing bags after onto
Yeah.
the sidewalk
Like,
and driving
what do you-
away.
And if they say something, go like, sorry, I can't hear you. I have a mask on.
I'm
and,
so
like, just keep
I'm so
moving. Like, what are they gonna
incurably
do? Like-
programmed to try to do everything right and politely, and
Nah.
it ruins me.
No,
It's just bad
that's
for my life.
It is. It is
Yeah.
absolutely bad for your life.
Yeah.
Rules mostly exist to like punish you. That's like kind of why they exist, is just to hurt you as a person. And so like you just have to choose which rules that if you break are going to hurt other people, which is not ideal. You're not trying to do that. But there are some rules where you're like, okay, you just fucking being a jackass now. I'm not going to do this. No thanks. Bye. And like, I don't know. I can't tell you what the right choices are ever, but I don't have those problems. So like,
It's a lot.
I never experienced them, and like, I don't know.
We're really inescapably divided at the moment, and to some extent, it's good.
great.
To some extent, it's
Yeah.
good because, frankly, one of these sides is right. So, and it's fighting the correct things, and just because they're, to some extent, there's a problem where like, and it's like there's a, with young people, and even like a lot of the, like when you actually do polling and so on, we have a problem where young people and even the majority are all in favor of the stuff that it's more correct, but they're so fucking demotivated about ever actually voting, that they just don't in mass. And so the relative minority opinion keeps basically winning. And it's partly the fact that they're more motivated to vote as old people, and it's partly because there's a bunch of really weird bullshit lines that have been drawn on invisible maps that make it so that their votes count more than other people's. And then there's also like active disenfranchisement and so on that gets in that process. It's just stage and stage and stage of bad nonsense going on, basically. But we got this weird trap where there's progress being made, but there's so many weird pieces of bullshit just in the way of that. And part of it is the fact that the Republican Party in many cases doesn't have a coherent ideology, but instead in many cases just actively, like, as an institution, and I'm not saying conservatives as a concept, I'm saying specifically the Republican Party, their job is just to run counter to whatever the liberals say. Like the other party that has a coherent ideology, we're just going to fight that. Whatever they say, we want the opposite of that. And it's like, and there's definitely people that are in there that are true believers that have some really dark shit that they wanted to do, like what's going on in Texas right now. But there's also just a bunch of career politicians like Mitch McConnell that are just fucking like, they just see a racket that they can profit from. They just know that if I just be the contrarian here and I politicize that and I just make a living out of this, like I could just coast on this my whole life, basically. And so every single topic that any group of people collectively are discussing for basically any reason, quickly they immediately take the opposite stance, no matter what the context is. And so that's why, now we're gonna fight over whether or not we should survive the plague. Like they'll literally just they will. It's like the fucking bike meme where he jams a stick into his tire and crashes, and he's like, the liberals, how could they make me ideologically believe in bad, stupid things that serve no purpose? And like that's just where we are. Like we're so divided that reflexively Trump just had to take the opposite stance because that's all he does. Like he's an ideological nightmare where he has no fucking clue what he's talking about basically anything. But he knew how he he knew how he did well at this. He knew how he made his platform work the way it did, and how he got as far as he did was just by reacting in certain ways to what certain other people were saying. And if he just agrees with the people that seem to be on this side and disagrees with people that seem to be on that side, then he can just politicize everything. And no matter how stupid it is, the louder people yell about it, the more that it benefits his career and how things are going for him. And that's how we get fucking just 50 conspiracies about the fucking mask situation and about vaccines and COVID and so on. And it just keeps going and going. And specifically when I was talking about the beginning, I never got back to it, but I talked about watching people survive with cognitive dissonance. And part of what's fucking nuts about this is that I've had multiple conversations with conservatives that are like, they're like begrudgingly taking certain steps. Like some of them have the vaccine and some of them wear masks. And it's like a weird mixed bag.
But these people have begrudgingly also apparently taken the polio vaccine as children.
Yeah,
Must have been so rough for them.
It's so fucking weird because they'll essentially like feel the need to reassert their tribalism at every fucking turn. So it's like, okay, like they're gonna take the masks, or they're gonna take the vaccine, or they're gonna listen to the mandates or whatever, but they're gonna like signal that it's actually a bad thing or whatever, like at every turn along the way. Like you have these bizarre back and forths of like, it's like it's to the point where it's like, oh yeah, be safe and blah 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 blah, but also like every single time we go into any building, we're gonna like complain about Gavin Newsom and what color the counties are in their like crisis state or whatever. Like just bizarre conversations about how and nothing could be I've had conversations of like this could easily be the personal choice of the individual business. Like you don't even know their story. Like they might be intentionally keeping people outside despite the color grade being lower than it has to be, because they just feel safer having everyone outside while COVID's going on. But it's like, no, it's evil. Gavin is making them do it somehow. And most bafflingly, I've had people that are like, they're immunocompromised and they're in danger of if this ever happens to them. And they'll bizarrely say that they're afraid of getting the vaccine because it might kill them. but then like in the same conversation, like 5 minutes later, say like, yeah, if I got COVID, I'd probably be fine. Like I've lived through this much so far. I'm basically bulletproof. And it's like, okay, these two ideas don't fucking work together. Or like or just the bizarreness of how like apparently the mask keeps CO2 in and is killing you, and you need air, but also it doesn't protect against COVID, because COVID just goes in and out of it like it's nothing, even though COVID is like 1,000 times larger than CO2 and H2O molecules. Like these are, it's just so much to take.
Don't try to science with them. That's devil speak.
They're usually it's not sophisticated enough conversation to have that specific discussion. But like there's the bizarre compromise of like you'll hear weird stuff about wearing masks or taking vaccines that are just inherently self-contrary on such a bold-faced level that they would have to know that if they actually reckoned with the idea, but they don't reckon with it. What they do is that they've succumbed to certain steps that they feel like they can't get away from taking, but then they just have to like declare their tribalism at every corner at war with the thing. And it's like, and it's a thing that never should have been a war, but they never will shut up about it. It's actually exhausting being being around some of these people sometimes, where they will just keep bringing it up and they'll keep complaining about it, and you're just sitting there quietly just listening to them, and they just keep fucking going. And it's like, dude, it's been 2 years, we live in this. Like, how have you not resolved any of this dissonance at all yet about the basic reality of how we need to survive? And I'm so tired.
They don't need
so
to.
Tired.
It doesn't benefit them to. Like their entire happiness hinges on the idea that they are oppressed, that they are unable to, get the thing that they want, which is, I don't know what it is, because I don't know what these fucking people do all day where their lives have been impacted in any capacity. Like, but whatever. It's just selfishness, and they're upset that their selfishness didn't win out. And so now it's all of our problems to deal with the fact that they didn't get to keep their selfishness. And it's fine. I don't care.
This isn't going away though.
Complain. It will go away, because they're at the end of the day, all it's going to happen is it's either going to turn into like, okay, every year go and get your stupid shot, or all the people who won't get vaccines don't exist anymore. And
the effectiveness of the extra shots doesn't matter in comparison to the actually having people vaccinated at least once. Ideally,
or you see stuff like, every day we're just getting closer and closer to solving the problem the hard way. But it's fine, because again, ideally, if not everybody gets vaccinated, then you just have to endure. But ultimately,
that's not what happens though, because the people who are vaccinated are exposed to the danger because of the people who are not. Like here in Portugal,
you can't solve that. Like you're not going to make that go away. The United States will never have like a united front against this vaccine. Think
about it like this. Here we have 85% people fully vaccinated. Every one of the people who are not vaccinated, so in a country of
declared
10,
that they won't.
No, it's kind of complicated. There's children, and it's kind of complicated. But maybe we're gonna get. I'm not talking about numbers specifically. I'm just trying to compare my reality with yours here, because I'm fully vaccinated, and I have in my whole country, I have 1.5 million people who could or who are a much bigger risk of transmitting the virus to me than other people. And in your, so it's like 15% of the population. In the United States, it's 45% of the population. So it's like 3 times as higher. So for the people with the vaccine, you're 3 times more likely to get the virus than I am here in my country. Even though the vaccine is the same.
We're in a situation where the majority of the people who are not vaccinated are actively declaring that they will not get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Even if it becomes like an employee mandate.
Yeah,
it's like,
but it could be like the government has total ability to mandate that people take the vaccine, and they choose not to do it.
No,
they have not.
We have already done that. Biden literally is.
It's not a mandate.
Yes,
it is. It's only first off, it's only for companies above 100 employees,
which is you can pretty much most of them.
True, it's fair, but you can opt out as long as you give a test, which can be faked, a test every week.
That is up
negative
to, so that depends on your state. Your state gets to determine whether that like get out of free card exists. And so some states probably will, but at the end of the day, we've done all we can. Again,
no, you can do more. You can do more. It's just
if you do any more, it's forcing. And there's like,
of course it is. Of course it is.
Yes, and I'm saying at some point, this is not how reality works. You can't just. It's just like the idea of like, well, why don't you just take their guns away? You can't just like stop these people from being self-destructive. You have to just let them be nuclear bombs on their own and let them blow up somewhere. What you mean. Like, at some point
we
you
already
have to
had a mask mandate in our state for for the entire state for most of the last like 2 years.
Yes,
and it doesn't do anything.
But what I mean,
entire sections of society are completely maskless, and no one cares.
Let me just finish my.
And you can't do anything about it.
Like, you're the asshole if you point it out.
Yeah, and like the only real solution here is if you get people, you get like a military front, and they go through the streets and they take vaccines and they stab it in all of your arms unless you have a card and move on. Like you either have to do this the authoritarian way, or you have to accept that there are just going to be huge chunks of people that will never do this.
Let me just go back and finish my point about the numbers. I was trying to compare how likely it is or how exposed you are as a vaccinated person in both Portugal and the United States, because of the effectiveness of the third shot and where the focus of the fighting the pandemic should be. The third shot only boosts immunity by 25 to 50%, and to bring an American fully vaccinated person to the same levels of immunity as a Portuguese fully vaccinated person, it would need to boost it by 66%, right? Because it's 3 times, so it would be 66. So it is more beneficial to invest in making sure that people are vaccinated at all, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's a problem in the United States, obviously, but I'm talking. This is a worldwide crisis. That's why the World Health Organization is calling against people or countries deploying third shots to the population, because it's just so much more beneficial to make sure that the people who are not vaccinated at all get vaccinated. And I'm talking about the global south and subdeveloped countries, because in Africa there's I think it's like only 3% of the population are vaccinated in Africa, and there's, I think it's like 95% of the countries there that have less than 1% vaccination. And it's just like a completely different reality, because it's not about it's not just about the transmission on a global scale, which is a problem, but it's also about the creation of new variants. Like the pandemic in the United States today, right now, could be resolved if we didn't have the Delta variant. And the Delta variant exists because India didn't have vaccination fast enough, and it still doesn't have vaccination fast enough. And so that's why it's so much more important to vaccinate people at all rather than the third shot. And that was just to finish my point.
Which, and I mean, that's, and again, I guess the problem is like, that would be great, but it will never happen. Like, that's
you're
the
not
problem.
wrong.
Is like,
you're not wrong.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, that is the problem here, is that we have come to accept that will be like this forever. You're going, like, every X amount of time, a new variant will appear. We've already got a new one here.
It just needs to become like incredibly inconvenient in as many ways as possible.
Yeah, basically, that's what the whole point of like shutting things down was.
Like, there was this big spike there was this huge spike of vaccinations because sports were returning. And it's like, oh, I get it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So clearly this isn't a thing you think is genuinely dangerous. It was always a culture war because you're willing to get the vaccine the moment it's in the way of you going to a sports game. I see. Cool.
Yep.
Glad you're wasting our fucking time.
Yeah. Which is why I'm saying is like, you can't solve this problem. You have to just either you do it by force in the most authoritarian way, or you let these people just be self-destructive to society. Like there is no middle ground here. You can't like trick them into doing this. They're literally on autopilot, purposely existing to devastate the society because they've been told that's what they're supposed to do, and that the thing that everyone is asking them to do politely and not with force is something that is not okay for them to do.
And this has been tested. It's just a known fact that if you give like actual stances and belief are relatively unimportant for the choices that people make, because actually if you just if you pose ideological questions about whether or not they're in favor or against something, and you tell them that their opponents are in favor or against it, versus if you tell them that their allies are in favor or against it, that has a larger chance of affecting their choices than the actual ideology they have. Like this has just been studied. Yep. Like it's just there.
You just have to endure. Or
that's the
we
danger
just have to
of
endure.
Just how fucking stupid our president was.
Well, it's fine. We've had worse than him, and we'll have worse than him.
Yeah, but we had him. We had someone that bad
world.
at one of the worst possible times in terms of having people not being dead as a result.
I mean, I would rather just as a society gain the education to not have this problem repeat every fucking couple of decades. But fine. Like it's just
like until COVID happened, there was an actual argument that I think was actually reasonably salient, as depressing as it was, that Trump was not necessarily a massively worse president than the average one, just because we're so permissive of so much horrible shit normally that we're blind to how much of the shit that he was doing was just the norm. He said a lot of horrible things out loud that was definitely crossing a line, and that was terrifying to have that be publicly signed off on. So we were in like a dark chapter because of the fact that people were like agreeing with the things he was saying out loud and seeing that as a good thing. And that was a new level of dark. But as far as like actual presidential actions, they're really fucked up on average. Just all presidents are really horrible. Like they do horrible things, and they're pretty much across the board war criminals. And so on average, when you compare them to the other presidents, Trump wasn't actually especially bad until COVID happened. And then COVID, he just suddenly, it's like, okay, well, he's single-handedly responsible for countless deaths. Like that's what happened. Because he was the leader of the entire country at that time, and a huge number of people were looking to him for signifiers. And as I just pointed out, like what the leader of your fucking tribe says is more important than any level of critical thinking and knowledge in many cases. And so he just steered a bunch of people to just fucking die. That's what he did. It's his fault. He's one of the worst people in a long time to live directly because of that, because he was in a place of power to do horrible damage, and he did it he just did it with no fucking remorse. He just went for it, and he just ended the lives of his own followers, and by proxy many others that just had to live in the same world as those followers and are put in danger as a result too. Like that's really bad. And it's just severely understated in context of all the other shit, because we're in an endless news cycle of being mad and shouting about 100 things, and you can't even care about anything for that long because the next thing comes up and takes all the wind out of the sails of the previous thing. And that was his entire strategy, was just to have 4 controversies per day, so you forgot about all the other ones all the time. But like, make no mistake, he killed hundreds of thousands of people by being president. Like that's the biggest division, because I hate Biden. I hate him so much. But the biggest difference between Biden and Trump is the fact that there would be significantly fewer dead people if Biden had been president when COVID started. Like that's just true. Like as the leader of the country, he would have fundamentally not behaved in that way. Literally denying the pandemic, belittling it, spreading conspiracy theories about it, and just actively getting people killed. Like that was just never going to happen. That's just not how any Democratic president would have behaved. And that's the only, like, normally it's like this, you're not so different, you and I, because fucking Democrats are like secretly horrible most of the time because they're not actually leftists, they're fucking depressing centrists. It's secretly, in that people fall for it. That's the secretly part. Yeah,
I suppose.
But like Democrats are fake leftists. They're just depressing pro-capitalist centrists that make essentially the irony here is that the Democrats are essentially the more conservative of the two parties in the sense, in like not the the political sense of the word, but the literal sense of the word, and that they
maintaining things as they are.
Yeah, they just maintain the status quo. And like Disco Elysium is actually helpful for understanding these words to an extent. Whereas the conservatives are actually the more radical fringe group that actively starts just breaking toys. Like they're the ones that actually will do stuff, whereas the Democrats won't do fucking anything most of the time. And the trick is that the conservatives have specifically fear-mongered the Democrats to be the left, to essentially being the leftist party that leftists want. And so that scares people into supporting the conservatives over the Democrats, and not thinking that they're and being afraid of all the things that'll happen when the Democrats are in power. And then the Democrats, when they are in power, instead just keep whining about bipartisanship and collaborating and never getting anything done and being a flaccid baby like fucking Obama, being like, oh, they won't give me a Supreme Court justice. I'm gonna tweet about it every day for a year, and that's my activism. It's like, you're the fucking president, you son of a bitch. What are you doing? Just gonna wait it out? Just gonna wait? Cool. Well, glad we bothered with you. That's Democrats. It's such a fucking waste of time. But at least, but like that, but they won't fucking mishandle a pandemic that fucking badly. They'll do it in different ways, but they won't do it the fucking evil way. I'm so fucking sad about the world, our country. Everything's depressing. Paying attention is not rewarded.
It's just such a nice.
No, it really is not.
Nice
it just makes you unhappy all the
time. I'm very just like pro burn it. Just let it all die. I hope it just goes on fire and flames, and people get to endure living in the hell dystopia that they've like been fear mongering their lives to be living in this entire time, and they get to actually finally live in it. And I get to watch all of them suffer and like pathetically moan and cry about being in pain all the time, and just like, this is what you wanted, right? This is the thing that you kept voting people in to do.
No, they're gonna convince themselves it's actually your fault or everybody else's fault.
That's
fine, how it goes. It's never their fault.
At the end
Climate
of the day,
change?
I'll always survive, and they'll be the ones suffering, and that will be the only thing that matters to me. Like, it's just I have no more time, no more patience, no more interest in trying to like care about this like horrible world that it keeps being built without any
that's inherently
ability
not
for me
how
to
it works,
to do
though.
anything about it.
Like the COVID and climate denialism specifically does endanger us just as equally. We're all in a shared space that we just get to deal with it. Especially since this isn't like anything close to any sort of normal pandemic situation where there's other options available. So it's like we're stuck with like a vaccine that it's not perfect or anywhere near as much as you'd hope it would be. And there's breakthrough cases, even when you're getting the same version of COVID that it would be. Even when it's the same version of COVID that you were inoculated against, that specific one can still have breakthrough cases, and you can still be a carrier, so you can still put other people in danger despite being vaccinated.
It's important to point out that the breakthrough cases happen in unvaccinated or very little vaccinated populations. It doesn't happen in populations.
Which is us. Here we go.
It's true.
I have a remote job. I can live anywhere. So enjoy. Like and that's the thing, is like I continually keep pushing myself to not be bound by this by anything. I don't want to. You don't
know the current pain of like that a lot of people are dealing with, which is that having conservative family and like being pressured into social engagements with people that either themselves disregard the current safety standards, or they take you to places where the entire environment is just people that disregard the current safety standards, and then that having to navigate that bizarre place. Otherwise you're like a betrayal of the family and so on. Like this,
that's fun.
A lot of us are dealing with this kind of shit where it's just like, what the fuck? It's a huge like bizarre problem where it's like you have to. It's like you're essentially trying to figure out how to survive the people that you like were raised by in many cases, or like trying to figure out what to do with the like the people that you're like you're taught growing up, essentially, that are the people that you're supposed to like trust the most practically. And it's like it's like, no, they're actively detrimental to your safety, and you got to figure out how to navigate this.
Yep.
Yeah, that is rough. I acknowledge that. But I also, yeah, fortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, that doesn't affect me, and so I get to just be a bystander and just, I'm informed, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But if it causes everybody else to just, if it causes the rest of the thing to fall apart and crumble down,
but it's
right,
also a vicious cycle, right? Because the dynamic that you experience is similar for a lot of people. It just rewards division. It rewards people breaking up connections just along already existing lines. It's just gonna drive a bigger and bigger for a very. I mean, I'm not arguing against how you're looking at it, Andrew. I'm saying that it's the situation is gonna force even more division already than it
I'm
already
aware.
exists.
I'm not arguing that like I have the correct or a even remotely positive look on this.
Well, it's the safe attitude for one.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from the attitude where like I cannot trust I just cannot trust the species to be in my best interest. It does not want to survive, and I can't keep trying to pretend like it does. Like, I'm tired of it. I've literally just watched like they keep talking, they keep seeing the joke of like, wow, if zombies existed, people would just get bit on purpose. And it's like, no, like, yes. Really, this is literally like, this is the most embarrassingly stupid thing. Like, I've watched TV shows I've watched stuff that I thought was like so outlandishly unreal that I couldn't even suspend disbelief for. But now I have to acknowledge I was wrong because reality exists. And I'm here in a timeline where people are somehow stupider than movies. And it's like, how do you empathize with such a, I don't even know, I can't even think of an insult to call this like level of stupidity. Like, you have to.
It's like how Starship Troopers feels like a parody.
Yeah.
But then you have like what, like the fucking like kindergarten force or whatever, like Sacha Baron Cohen got that one Republican official to like go along with the idea of like arming children so they can defend themselves at school and just giving them all guns, and he was just like, it's just going along with the whole fucking thing, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, the whole gun situation in the US is just a preamble for the whole COVID situation, honestly.
You can just literally do that for anything, though. The whole blank situation in the United States is blank. Like, it always is. It always fucking is. Anything. You look at any fucking thing, and it's always just, wow, can't believe the US topped itself on being the worst somehow. Like, how did it do it? It wanted to just dunk on itself harder. I'm sorry, we're already in the crust of the earth. How deeper do you think you can go, US? And it's like, oh, we'll go to the core if we have to. Mm-hmm. We'll just keep dunking until there is nothing left to dunk. And but this is it.
Personal experiences are why I've kind of softened a bit on all these scandals that keep happening, where it's like, we caught this person that's supposedly pro-mask being in a place without a mask this one time, and so on. And it's like, there's certain examples that are more egregious, obviously, but there's other times where it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I've lived in reality, and like, I get that we all want to. I get that it's like this is fucking like performance of purity to some extent, but like when the rubber hits the road and you have like complicated people in your life and you're trying to just navigate day to day, you end up in weird contexts where it's just like you have to, like, in a weird way, you either cut ties with people or you compromise on your morals, because that's the only way to like get through the day sometimes, and it's a bummer. Mm-hmm. But it's like, but I think about like the what is it, still kind of mad about it, to be honest, but there was the Dr. Mike was posting all these videos about COVID information and so on and what to do and so on, and then there was the scandal where he was like on a boat with a bunch of friends celebrating his birthday, and they were like, and it's like during the time where you shouldn't be doing, I mean, it's still happening now, but now people, I feel like, are more I feel like these days people are more like permissive of it, almost because they've just gotten so fucking exhausted by it that everyone's kind of breaking the rules more. But it was back when we were in the earlier days, and I think he was more aggressively. Like even I was mad about it, where it's like he's the one that's saying all these things we're supposed to be doing, but then he's like, here he is on this party boat with his friends, all maskless, and there was no vaccine yet, and so on, and like that's like this betrayal, and it's like this hypocrisy, and he's exposed, and so on. But I think about my daily life and just the number of times I've gone to this or that thing. Like, what do you do when you're invited to a wedding of like, not even just like, oh, some distant person, but like very close family, and it's the middle of the pandemic? Like, what do you do when you're invited to this variety of life engagements that just like, if you don't go to these things, like inherently, like the thing that went wrong was that the plan was made in the first place and you were invited to it in the first place because like that was already a mistake. But like at the end of the day, the consequences are going to be that you're the one that didn't go to the thing and you refuse that, and it turns into like this like multi-year grudge with various people in your life because you keep refusing to do these things. Like multiple people in my life that did choose to specifically decline things have had like entire friendships destroyed because they didn't go to someone's important engagement or that or this or that, and the person isn't understanding because like saying the pandemic stuff is basically seen as like a fucking the latest version of like being flaky, like the latest excuse you can throw around as why you just didn't want to go, and that's what you're gonna use as the excuse basically. And it's like it's fucking bizarre because like we're social creatures, and these these like bonds you have with people are important to your life, and especially when it's like elements of family and so on. And obviously that's been strained for a lot of people for like the last like 5-10 years because of the political situations, but like this one has been an especially rough one of like, do you go to this family thing or do you not? Like, you're going to be the guy who didn't go to the family thing, or like people being like, oh, this is our last chance to all see each other before I move, or this other thing that's happening. But then you're like, but there's like elder people at the thing, and like they're like, I don't want to be the person that's responsible for them dying because we ended up, oh, it turns out somebody was positive and we didn't know that yet, and the older people at that place are just all dead now. The people that are like going through like already going through cancer treatments and all that, like it's like there's like a situation where it's like
it's very much
all the people in your life that you like are used to the idea that they're the adults in the room, and you're constantly facing situations where it's like, well, am I the only person anxious about this? Am I the like, how do I be the adult in the room about the situation? Like, I seem to be the only person concerned about like the existential threat upon the thing that we're doing right now. Everyone's just continuing like life as normal or something. It's just fucking weird. No one knows what they're doing.
To some degree, you are the adult now. Like, that's
true. That's fair.
the thing. You are the adult now, so you get to decide. Like, you get to you have in the societal like boxing ring, you know, you're no longer a child. So when an adult tells you something and you as an adult don't agree with it, you get to just 1-2 them in the face. Like, they don't get to go like, well, I'm your parent. It's like, that doesn't mean anything anymore. You don't get to claim me on your taxes. You're done. Your time's over, old man. Kick the way over. You get 2 options: retire peacefully or retire with your mouth taped up. Like, that's it. Like, you can't just you don't get to like sit there and like conform to weird, crazy people's mentalities anymore. Like, you have power.
You're approaching it from a fundamentally different position, though, from basically anyone. Like,
well, yeah, because
like anyone on this podcast or listening to it, though, because your stance is like, fuck it, cut ties with everyone for any reason. Fuck it, I don't need people.
But what am I? Why would I want people in my life who are actively trying to kill me? Like, that is a weird thing to ask. I don't go to like prison and look for friends. Like, it's not just like the place I go to network, because I'm not looking for like specifically the high security prison where, you know, they keep the murderers and the people who like try to genocide nations. Like, those are people I don't go and try to befriend because I'm kind of like not interested in that kind of relationship. I'm looking for more like healthy dynamics with people, and I don't want to hang out with people whose entire mentality is like, yeah, fuck your health, I don't give a shit. And it's like, okay, well, that kind of really clears the air here. I know exactly where you stand, where I stand in your eyes, and how you're going to treat me as a human being, which is less than a human being should be treated. It's like, I don't know, man.
I'm not enticing Andrew here, but I don't disagree with Andrew on this matter. I sympathize with the fact that breaking up with family is a lot more, or tends to be a lot more difficult as a personal growth kind of matter than breaking up with friends or loved or special others. But because family is family. But I've lost friendships over COVID. And I've lost during COVID and because of COVID. Like I broke up with a longtime friend because of him just being kind of shitty when I asked him if he wanted to go to a Black Lives Matter protest in August last year. This was in the middle of a pandemic, and he was just shitty and unresponsive. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm never talking to you again. And then I never have. And people just acting crap because of COVID. I'm just, well, I guess I'm never talking to you again. If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's how it goes. Because it's not a matter of, for me, it sucks to lose friendships, but the friendship is lost whether I want to, whether I want it or not. Like, for somebody to have a dismissive attitude towards things that are important to me like that, it's enough for me to just not give that person the same love that I gave them before. So why continue the charade? It's like with family. That's why that happening with family is a lot harder, because there is a reason to continue the charade.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I already lost a lot of friendships to like the likes of Ben Shapiro and so on, and just be like, oh my Jesus, how do we even deal with this? But family is supposed. Family, like, a lot of people have trouble with the idea, like, because like family is supposed to be this like lifelong thing, and yes, you can just choose to sever that forever, but then it's like you're unmoored essentially, and it's part of how you identify yourself as a person, and it's like it's not something that just is easily shrugged off the way that some people will flippantly phrase it as being.
You know, it's also potentially lifelong, or the side effects of COVID. So
not very long.
You get to choose which one is a lifelong thing you want to keep forever. It's I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that it's kind of what you have to do. You know, just like paying your taxes. I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's really enjoyable or something that everyone does equally as well
Breaking
as they
up
should. But like you
cutting ties with family members isn't the same as paying taxes.
Kind of is to me.
You guys don't even pay taxes in the US.
I pay way more than most people pay, and well, I pay way more than people who have way more money than me need to be paying. Again, the idea is like this is a lot different when your dynamic is like you are younger, or you are like not an adult. When you are like a teenager, or even like about just turning 18, you're in this like social hierarchy situation where even if you could literally have a doctorate in medicine and show up in like with your diploma in hand, wearing your outfit with your stupid stethoscope.
Carlson, though, and that's why I'm more right than your literal diploma in
university.
And so you can show up and be like, have every single piece of data. You could come up with like a fucking team of scientists, and like your place in the social hierarchy means that you're a child and you can't be listened to. And like, okay, I get it. That's a lot harder. What do you do about that? You kind of just have to like nod your head and like politely accept watching your entire family to kind of run a tightrope of murdering themselves, like that tightrope on Kaiji, where you're like, I don't know why you're doing this. You could just get a fucking job and just be safe. But all right, I guess you could put yourself in life or death. But like when you, I don't know, when like, for me, I'm 30 years, I'm above 30. I'm not gonna let somebody, no matter how young or how old, tell me how to best take care of myself. Like in that sense, like if I feel like this is unhealthy, it's unhealthy. Yeetus deletus, I'm gone. But even if that means someone's gonna be like, I'll never talk to you again if you believe in the thing. All right, fine. I would rather survive. If you don't want to, cool, that's up to you. But you can't take me with you, sir. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't tie a rope around me and throw us off the boat together. I'm not doing it. And you're definitely in at some point, like, so I guess the question is like, what happens after this? What happens? So like, what happens after this? After it's all said and done, the dust settles.
Sound off in the comments. How many friendships and relationships have you lost this year?
Just how many, like, the dust settles, two giant buff anime boys are standing at each other, and what do you do now? What do you do now? We've had this like entire, I don't know what you would call it, fun carnival ride of thinking all of us could be trying to kill each other, and we're just gonna like spit in each other's hands and shake them and go, all right, well, that was fun, see you in the next pandemic. Like, well, how do we move forward? And like, I personally just don't see there to be much progress when the division here resulted in a no, there is not a thing that's killing people, and yes, there is a thing that's killing people, and one of those is just reality, and the other side wants us to just not believe in reality.
It's frustrating because you just
like,
want it to be a clean personal choice, and then the problem is that because it's about social engagements, every single one of these personal choices involves a second person on the other side and their personal thoughts on the thing, and like the inherent stuff going on there. And it's just so deeply just like there was a relatively early in the pandemic, like Stephanie was going to go off to some social engagement, and then my brother gave her this big lecture about how the nurse in our household is really stressed out about what's going on and how bad things are and how this stuff can't really just keep going on. And so she actually just ended up staying home. She just didn't go out to that thing that day. The person whose thing she was going to does not speak to her now. Like that choice had consequences that have not resolved, and it's just like, fuck. Like it's a stressful situation because the other people in your life that are important to you are actively punishing you for your choices.
I am definitely in the camp that like there has to be reasonable, like something there. It has to be a reasonable request, you know, like just because somebody in that instance, I would be concerned about like, I don't think either choice is right. I don't think you should be particularly going out to doing like overly huge events with a fucking pandemic going on. But I also think that there's a very big difference between I'm going to go do something and somebody's job is stressing them out. Like, I don't know. I guess it's just in that particular example that you've provided, it is a very uniquely interesting one because I genuinely don't see how Stephanie's actions mattered. Like, I guess if she brought it back with her, that would be problematic. Or not, I guess, because they're a nurse. They're literally just living in it every day. So technically, they're the highest risk available here. They're the one.
I'm so shocked I don't have it, by the way.
I'm not. I'm invincible. If something could kill me, it would have done it already.
You got through the pandemic in a bubble. Like, it's completely unsurprising you didn't get it. You were you're interacting with basically nobody, and you only got your girlfriend like on the tail end of this. Oh, I guess you can't call it. Not really, I don't know what. We always want to feel like we're further along than we are, but actually tail end might not be accurate. Like, we keep hitting records on a regular basis. As depressing as that is, 2 years in. But
yeah, we have a new strain going on now too. So like,
relatively few connections. Whereas in my household there was two people that were customer facing people every day, and a nurse are my housemates. So I'm like, how the fuck did we not all get infected at some point? Unless we all did, and we were literally all asymptomatic. I have no idea. I have never tested.
You can go and get tested and figure it out, and you may be.
No, you need to test.
That's what's so funny too, is that you could just be hanging out with it. You could just have a good time, live your fucking life, and just kill hundreds. Like, it doesn't. It's just, I don't know. That's why I think
the
it's
test is different, though, isn't it? To test if you have had it, it's the antibodies test, right?
Yeah, you look for antibodies,
and it's even it's not 100%.
Is that blood, right?
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you the specifics because I've never had it done.
I guess
I've
antibiotics
only
sounds
had
like it'd be
the-
blood. I don't want the fucking apparently
nose one?
painful like nose
It's
one.
not. It's not painful.
People have
for-
varied in their reactions.
Yeah, for me, the nurse told me that it's gonna feel like when you burp after drinking a fizzy drink, and it definitely feels like it. But
What?
being expecting it, when the
It's gonna
fizziness
feel
of
like
a drink.
burping?
Yeah, it's just like there's a
do
pressure.
you know the feeling?
There's a pressure, and it's fine. It's not painful. It's just
It's
just
not
a
painful,
pressure.
but if you're not expecting it, you're like
yeah,
anything
it's
can feel like
definitely-
anything.
It will
right?
definitely be alarming if you aren't.
If I'm telling you
prepared.
I'm cutting your back instead of touching it with ice, I'm touching it with ice, but I'm cutting into your back with a knife. You're like, oh no, you're cutting into my back with a knife. It hurts. But it's just ice. Do you know what I mean?
I got scared off early on by people reacting about it being painful,
Yeah.
which
If you're not ready for it, I can definitely see people being in pain.
well also might have
because
just been
it's pressure,
shitty
so-
drive-by like drive-through tests where the
Yeah.
nurse is just kind of violent.
Yeah.
They're like, I
Jam
got
it
a
in
in
there,
there.
get
Get
some
the hell
brain.
out of here! Like
Yeah. I did a drive-through a couple of times, but yeah.
I don't even know where I don't even know where you would go for a drive-through test. I don't.
It's like how my
They
second
probably don't
COVID
exist
shot was
anymore,
way
don't you
more
guys?
painful because of the shot itself. Like it was done painfully.
Oh,
She did a
no.
bad job and it hurt.
oh no,
In the moment. And
Oh.
it's like that
That's-
needle wobbled.
that sucks. Yeah, mine was just like.
So that might have
in
been
and
why there
out,
was
done,
stories about painful COVID tests or whatever.
which is
Yeah.
fine. I think people also just sometimes they get a little overly dramatic about doing uncomfortable things.
Well, different people have different
It's-
pain tolerances, but I think the
That's
most
also true. Yeah, I don't.
the most
pain is-
important thing is just you don't. It's just a weird feeling that if you're not expecting it, it can feel like anything. It
Well,
can
I'm
feel
just
like-
really I'm bad about it's like a character flaw. I'm bad at voluntarily doing things that suck.
I mean, that seems kind of very human of you, Keith.
Like I know, but it's like a mask thing. It's like, okay, you just go out, you put a mask on, and like the mask it like sucks in the long term, but the act of doing the mask is like whatever, and getting the vaccine is whatever. You just get a vaccine, but like when something's gonna suck, like going to the doctor or going to the dentist, it's like, or doing your taxes, it's like the amount of like potentially just putting it off until it's a larger problem is way more likely, because voluntarily managing it in the meantime is like a harder choice to make than when you have to.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like going to regular dental appointments versus, hey, there's a problem that has to be fixed now. A problem that could have been stopped by those regular dental appointments.
Yep. I mean, I feel that a lot of the procrastination that happens to me comes from working flat out at everything that I do, and I never feel bored, which is good. I hate feeling bored. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm never bored unless there's a game that has a particularly long loading screen or something, and that means that I never have time to be
Dude,
like,
if I get bored,
I
I
really
like
should-
pass out.
I really should go to the dentist or something.
I think that's a medical condition.
No, it's like because I use all of my time. Like there's always something. It's like
Yeah.
not just work from home stuff, which is its own thing of infinite work, but also like hobby, or just like, here's like the 2 MMOs that I'm like have progression stuff I want to do in, and here's like a TV show or a book that I'm trying to get through. Like I literally always have something to do at every moment. That like I've had time. There's times where like if I visit family and we're just like, I don't know, just sitting on the couch for a couple hours waiting for like the next thing to happen, maybe, or maybe nothing's going to happen. I'll just be like struggling to be awake because I'm so not used to having nothing to do that I'll like collapse and like just enter rest mode for the first time in 9 months or whatever. Because
I feel like
Keith is a
that's still-
sleeper.
Yeah, that doesn't
is a
sound.
sleeper.
It's not like you've made an argument that it makes sense. It still seems like
No,
a
there's
medical
people like
condition.
that.
you
There's
should
people.
you should definitely not be passing out the moment your body isn't stimulated in any way.
There's
Like,
people who will
that's-
just fall asleep at any chance. I know people like that. It's fine.
I guess I
I want to
I don't
know.
know.
I gotta get, this is the trick. This is how I fix my sleeping problems. I've got to like get kidnapped every night.
What?
Get kidnapped?
Because
I think that's how you stop sleeping.
Well, it's like what visiting family is. It's like you get even kidnapped. It's like that's it. I can't do anything. Like I'm just here on this trip or whatever, and I can't get anything done. And suddenly it's just I'm passing the fuck out in the middle of the day. Meanwhile, I can't sleep at night most of the time because my mind never stops.
Yeah, I feel you.
Actually, I had a really good streak for like the last 2 weeks, but last night I slept. I have no idea how much I slept. I laid in bed for 12 hours and kept checking the clock and had various moments where or like a noise machine I would turn on that like tries to make white noise for 90 minutes. I would be awake still when it went off. And I'm like, fuck. And oof. I literally can't tell you how much I slept last night. I have no idea. I slept at some point, probably multiple times, but I don't know what its total was. And like, but I've had a really good last 2 weeks though. I've been on a streak. I thought I fixed my problems until today. Hooray.
Yeah, the mind not being able to slow down is the pain. I've only experienced that a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, and especially like because you got to work the next day. If I didn't have responsibilities, it'd be fine. I was just like, okay, so I'll sleep during the day tomorrow. It doesn't matter. No, it does.
And I sometimes wonder if the new channel is detrimental in that it like gives me goals I'm trying to accomplish, which makes me more disappointed in things and also like stressed out about using my time productively and so on. Whereas like on my Let's Play channel, it's just fucking you start going, 30 minutes is up, and you just fucking cut it. And you're like, there it go, it's a video, fuck it. And like sometimes weird stuff happens, like oh man, I died and have to replay all the stuff, or oh man, there's a glitch or something, or this footage is broken, or I lost footage, or I can't make a video out of this, me being stuck on this one thing for an hour and a half. I gotta like record long enough, then edit that down into like 20 minutes or maybe, and then find out how long that was, then go back and record to finish the episode, or based on like sometimes wrinkles happen. But like there is like a element of like it's just over and you're just done and you're like I did it, I made the videos. But like the open-ended nature of like, wow, how much writing did you get done this week? How long should videos be, and how frequently should they be done, and what are you gonna do about the live action part? And these weird elements are like, hey, you spent all week writing a thing that you then aren't going to use because now you think it sucks, or maybe you'll come back later. You know, like 5 parallel things. It's like
a thing over and over.
It's like a different kind of stressful. That is just weirder. There's what was the shit? I had a thought and it's gone. I'm bad.
You were talking about
this
positivity.
There's like life regrets. We're like,
what?
I wish I knew the superpower I want these days. Fuck flying or invisibility or all those other shit people say. I just want the proactive ability to know for sure whether or not something is going to go as planned in certain contexts. Like last night, like if I knew in advance that laying in bed for 90 minutes to fall asleep wasn't going to work, I could have just kept reading Beastars instead of laying in bed trying to sleep.
That's what I do every night, Keith.
Yeah,
and not like Beastars specifically.
Volume 14 came out. I read the first half of it, and then I'm like, I should sleep now. And it's like I just laid in bed for hours not sleeping. I'm like, wow, I could have just fucking kept going. Wish I knew in advance.
No.
Or like when you have a day where you're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write today, and here I go writing, and it's like the fucking meme where SpongeBob writes an incredibly detailed calligraphy and that's all that gets done or whatever. I think that's SpongeBob, and like no words come out. It's like, wow, I could have used that foreknowledge because I could have just spent today doing something enjoyable instead of making no progress on this all day. Like I want the ability to retroactively spend my time better when it doesn't work out. like in both of those contexts, like that'd be a beautiful superpower to have.
Yeah,
I feel like one of those things is not doesn't work that way. Like I think like if it like you did the right thing. You're supposed to stop stimulating yourself and then just go to sleep. But if you can't, it's not that you should have stayed up and continued stimulating yourself. It's that you should seek an alternative method to solve for the problem that your body doesn't go to sleep.
I took a fucking melatonin and it didn't work.
Well, yeah, because melatonin's like fucking snake oil at this point. Like
that stuff has fucked me up before. It's been really powerful before.
And how often do you take it?
Not lately. That's what's weird. I thought it'd be like coffee, you know what I mean? Where it's like if you hadn't had caffeine for a while, suddenly it's like, oh fuck, caffeine. Like I had way more melatonin usage like 6 months ago, and these days I'm pretty weaned off of it. So it's like a fucking like it's like going nuclear. You're like, here we go, this will fix it. And last night, fuck you. Melatonin is a fucking Pez. It's useless. I'm like, God fucking damn it.
Your body could be done. It could be like, all right, we did that avenue and it's over.
I need my nuclear option to solve that exact problem, damn it.
That's what we call in the medical business a sedative. You just take a sedative.
No.
But it doesn't help you sleep though. Sedative.
Oh, well, it helps you stop functioning for enough time to fall asleep. Is kind of their goal.
Sometimes.
What a great superpower to have, though. Just the one where you like, for writers,
sleep on command.
Well, that too, but also just the part 2 of my example, though, where it's just like if people that want to write or do something creative could just preemptively know whether it was going to work out that day, and then like
is that just like omnipotence? Like if you just have really foresight,
specific,
I guess.
It's just like a really specific one. Just the ability to tell internally, like. Am I creative today, or do I have drive today, or whatever? Is this gonna work, or can I force it, or what? Because like, man, you just think afterwards, like I could have gone on a walk, I could have like cooked a nice dinner, or like I could have binged an entire season of TV. Or fuck it, I could have played Overwatch all day, like just anything other than the one where you just didn't successfully write anything all day. Is like. Yeah. What a unique piece of shit agony just to come out of something. And then it's sometimes it's the extra pressure of like, okay, so I've got my day job stuff and I've got my like all my responsibilities, and like I planned all week around this. Like I got my whole schedule done and everything's done. Here it is, my one day to work on this and like be fulfilled or whatever. And it's like, fuck you, day wasted. Try again next week.
Again, I feel like this comes down to like a limitation of it. Like this is just a normal human limitation.
Yeah, that's why I want the superpower. Really, that's the definitions of superpowers, Andrew.
These are limitations that you can overcome without the need of like Jack Kirby writing you a fucking character.
Jack Kirby,
sheet.
Fix me.
Like it's just like it's not necessary.
What Andrew is saying is that you should pick the flying. Don't pick the one that you're...
Flying would scare the fuck out of me.
No, always. Every time. I don't know why this conversation even exists. The only good superpower is Siler's superpower from Heroes.
I mean, that's the psychopath option. That's the psycho...
How? How is it? You literally can do... Them. No.
Yes.
No?
Peter is the one that didn't have to kill people. He's the one with the power of friendship. Siler's a serial killer.
No,
it's Peter's
Peter only is allowed to use powers one at a time. Siler gets them all. So
but
obviously that's the best option.
People. Also, he needs other people to have superpowers, which is a big problem in a world without superpowers. If you pick that one, you basically...
Or alternatively, you could figure out how to create a sedative at home. Eventually
Peter was so overpowered he just permanently absorbed every power he encountered, like super rogue. Like he was so fucking busted that they had to like nerf him in a season finale at some point. Eventually he could only hold one power at a time that they'd replace. So it was like fucking, fuck, I picked up the axe in Castlevania on accident. Fuck, I wanted the holy water. It's gone now. When's the other one gonna come back?
That's because the idea was that they're trying to do like a fire over fire thing where they're like, oh, if we make Peter way overpowered, then he can beat Siler, who's like supreme overpowered. And like it just didn't work out because they're like, oh no, wait, this one's still too strong. How do we make that not happen? Like,
flying
give
is
him amnesia.
Flying is too scary, but like some
But
kind
if
of
you can fly, it isn't scary.
yeah, but like some kind of
If you can
teleportation
control
where
your
you're
speed.
like assured you won't like die the way that fucking
It's teleportation.
the Black Eyed Peas guy died in the Wolverine movie. Like if you have like safe teleportation or like nothing like is gonna like you're not gonna have like a
That's just a-
crowbar in your
that's just a
guts when
train.
you arrive, then like
It-
that's
It's
a
just
good
a
one.
train, or a big car.
Well, I just mean like
That's safe.
one of the primary limitations. This is an internet born desire, but like one of the primary limitations on like engaging with people and getting to do stuff is just the fact that everyone's physically separated.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
limitations on everything as
I'm
well.
just gonna go visit Brian today. Just boop.
He doesn't want you there, Keith.
Just teleport
says
to
he does, but he
Brian or
doesn't.
teleport to Andrew and just like teleport. Let's go to Japan. Fuck it.
That just seems
Like,
pretty.
as opposed to like the actual cost and travel time limitations of doing things.
See, that's what I'm saying. All you need is money. That's the real superpower. You travel
It's-
anywhere safely.
Still seems terrifying to just like I don't
Teleport.
know. Well, yeah, like what is like how does your body react to time change? Like
and
do you,
temperature change and pressure
yeah,
change.
like yeah, like what does your body go through in like a brief second of changing everything about your environment? Like, what if you teleport to somewhere windy? What is your body? How do you react? Do you just get blown over immediately? Do you have does your body stabilize itself before a breeze? Like, how do you like you just pop somewhere and suddenly like you're like on the ground because like oh shit there is like wind or oh it's raining. Like you teleport somewhere and you're just like splashed.
I think
Like,
it's
what happens
important
to
that
the-
this is all defined as being a superpower. So that's the answer to all your
Well,
questions.
That's fair.
Superpowers still have
That's fair.
limitations. It's not like
Yeah,
it's
that's
not like-
why I don't want to fly, because people like lose consciousness sometimes, and I don't want to lose consciousness in the sky because nothing about
That
it
is a
being
good point.
nothing about flying superpowers says invincibility to
I never-
falling superpowers.
I never thought about that. That you could pass out while
how
flying.
many people that have flying superpowers would just randomly die one day? Not even because they crashed into a
Fall
plane
from the
that
sky.
First of all,
Birds do that.
planes are so fast that when two planes fly at each other, they just right past each other, like before anyone could ever possibly react. Like computers
Yeah.
are the only reason that they don't die.
But birds.
like,
have you ever seen birds fall off the sky because they have heart attacks? I've seen them.
Well, no,
What?
but I accept it.
It happens.
I
Yeah,
accept it. I
you
guess
have-
it's canon.
You have like one health problem,
Yeah.
or you just faint one day, like maybe because you fly too hard to between
you're
pressure
flying, yeah.
differentials and so on, and then you just
Yeah.
fucking die.
That's true.
I feel like
I don't
that's-
want to fly. I want to have a tail. That's my superpower. I've always wanted one.
I feel like that's a really inefficient
So
system.
the secret is you got to mix them. You got to have both. You got to have Nightcrawler power and cat and Kitty Pride power. Is it
Kitty Pride?
Kitty is
Yeah,
it
it's
Kitty
Kitty.
Pride? Yeah,
don't
because
think
you
Is that
need
a superhero?
you need to be able to teleport, but also not be solid when you arrive, so that you're not like dying because you've been impaled, or there's a bird inside your chest now, or something, or or you teleported in front of a car. So those two
Yeah,
powers
that would-
combined, pretty good.
I
or
guess the-
inside of a car.
Just need to know
because
you're not
the
going to die
momentum-
when you land.
I guess the other best power possible is technolepathy, the ability to just speak to all electronics, because then you can just do whatever the hell you want.
Telepathy.
Yeah, that's
Andrew
in Heroes.
Would-
That's
Andrew
the
Wood one.
that's the that's the
Fuck did
child
you just say
between
to me?
yeah
That's the
technolepathy.
nerd superpower. That's not good.
That's
Is it?
oh yeah,
Because-
it's Micah from
Yeah,
Heroes.
yeah, it's
God, I
Micah.
remembered his name.
Yeah,
My
he has
God.
technolepathy. It's great. He can just like
Heroes-
go to an ATM and be like, "Can I have money?" And it's like, "Yeah, here you go."
When are we gonna
Like,
when are we
like, what a great
when are we gonna
power.
bond over once upon a time being Heroes fans?
I was gonna say
never.
Heroes was worse than Game of Thrones.
I mean,
It's
yes,
pretty
that's why
rough.
it's,
They got
it's
writers
not a
That
great
was
show.
hard.
I stopped
I-
watching after time travel started.
Season
I
one's
stopped
pretty
watching
good
three.
until its literal like people say season 2 is bad. Season 1's finale
You're
was
right.
bad. The actual resolution
Yeah.
of the first plot was like everyone meets up for 2
Bad.
seconds and the fight's over and then
No,
like
the
later
first season was kind of good. Yeah, I liked it. Apart from
Yeah.
the ending.
yeah, the ending was,
No, it was
so
great.
fucking rushed and unimpactful.
Oh, yeah.
and you're like, what the fuck?
Well,
What
because
the
they
fuck?
weren't.
It's just
yeah,
over?
they had no idea what they were doing with that character, with all the characters. They like had so much build up, and then they just were like, what are we gonna do about this? Like the whole
And also-
plot was like basically don't let Sylar get immortality, and they're like, oh, he got immortality. It was like, well, how are you gonna kill this guy now?
Oh
And they're
yeah, like season 2 or 3 is just straight up like Hey, what if we
Like-
just let the thing that all of season 1 was about happen?
And then
Yeah.
Peter has an
Well,
AK-47, and I'm like,
It's the
what?
point of that.
I'm out.
It's okay though.
it was fun.
redemption arc.
Like,
Everyone's redeemed now.
It's great. It's like
Nice.
such a. Nothing's more fun than watching like the interaction between him and Claire. It's like this great like, oh, she's the only one that's ever survived this encounter with the serial killer killing people, taking their powers because she can't die. Like
can't.
it's such a great scene. Like she's just sitting there on the couch with her head taken
Open,
off,
and she's just like,
he's just like,
and then she
yeah,
just
and
heals, because she's unkillable.
and he's just digging through her head. He's like, "Thanks for the immortality. See ya." And he
I like
just
to
leaves to
imagine
the
they were
front
like
door.
they were like 2 seasons deep when they suddenly had the realization like, wait, she would just survive. We can just do that, and we won't even have to lose our lead actress.
It's great. And then he just like waltzes off. He just leaves Texas. Goodbye. Fuck you, and just goes away somewhere. Like it's great. It's
Man, that was
It's-
my favorite show at one point.
oh, it was definitely my favorite show until they were like, yeah, now like we have to kind of get rid of Siler. And I was like, oh,
Now it's
well,
just
I'm out.
forgotten.
Bye.
No one remembers that show.
Well,
I think they did a
yeah.
reboot, which I assume didn't get past
They
its
did.
first season because I've never
It
heard
did
anyone
not.
mention it ever.
No, yeah, they tried it again, and then they realized like, wait a second, these guys don't.
Well, that
These
show was
guys
so
aren't-
off the rails because season 2, it was supposed to be an anthology series or something. Like, season 2 was supposed to be about the next generation, but then the writer's strike happened. So instead, it was
That's right,
some
yeah.
really awkward forced shit, and they just kind of
They sent him to South
kept
America or something, and
coasting.
it was really bad.
And then they're like, we should have a redemption arc for Siler. How do you redeem the mass murderer? I don't know, just and add new outside threats that are the new villains, and then Siler just kind of is a background character that we can like we can fix him via magic.
Do the least amount of effort possible is what you mean, because
They did
that's
they
what
did,
happens.
they did the go-to cheat that a bunch of shows do, which is that they put Siler and Peter into a hyperbolic time chamber where they just had a character arc over the course of an episode. Because for them it was a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time.
Wow.
it's-
So
you know you're
it's
in-
okay if we butcher their characters.
oh, it's so frustrating.
It's
One of
not
these
great.
bad.
Yeah.
One of these days when I'm good at making video essays and scripts about very long things, I'll go back and rewatch the 100 and just get into that because it has that was one show I was having just a lot of fun with, and its last season is so appallingly bad, and part of it is that they do fucking hyperbolic time chamber shit where people are having massive character arcs that break the timeline of the rest of the story because for them it's been years and so on, and like several characters just turn into completely different people at the snap of a finger, and it's just like and by the end they have to do the bullshit, like the same bullshit Lost did, where it has to be like, instead of just being like that's just the end of this particular story arc, and I guess that's the last story arc. I guess good luck, heroes, characters, just go on and lead your life now. The show's over. It's like
Turn
no,
the lights
the
off
last,
when you leave. I'm out.
instead it's like the last season has to be about the fate of all of reality, and it has to go completely unhinged the way that Lost was like, it's about literal good versus evil across the globe and shit like that. All realities or whatever the fuck was happening by the last season. A lot of people misinterpreted it as they were in purgatory all along, which is wrong, but it was stupid for other reasons. And yeah, like the last season of 100 is just like, the fuck did you do to every character? Why is this and it turns into a literal test, like a supernatural deity just is testing all of reality of whether or not they deserve salvation or not. Like everyone either goes to heaven or not. Basically, it's like a fucking final moral check of all of the actions of all the characters over the entire show, and it's like, this is not necessary. You don't need to add some weird bullshit. Like, just have it be the resolution of whatever the story was at the time. Just
But they didn't know the resolution, so they had to come up with some insane shit because they couldn't come up with the correct resolution for their story.
it's frustrating because like there's this urge that a show has to have a final resolution that like wraps the entire show up in a bow, basically, which is true, kind of. But
Sometimes.
but what hack writers will do is, instead of coming up with like a particular thing where the thing is just thematically resonant with the entire show and kind of like it kind of ends up like like summarizing it as an overall context, instead they just like have a super duper ultra thing that just is the highest possible stakes, and it has this, and then like the heroes that get to have like a final choice, and like it's they get to have a big morality story, and like it's how like Final Fantasy games end with fighting God. It's how Mass Effect ends with like that shit that happened. Like the final choice in Mass Effect was just so bizarrely contrived. It's how so many of these narratives end because they don't know what else to do. Like it's hard to be mad about any of them individually for being that bad because they all are so many times. They don't know what else. It's amazing how consistent it is.
I don't know. I really like I guess this is like the reason I don't like comic books is because I feel like this is the same problem
That's how they
befalls
operate.
all of them.
Yeah,
is like they eventually get to
I
this.
hope Beastars doesn't do that.
As far as I know, no, but it's not done yet. So
No, it is. It is done. That's the thing. No spoilers in the comments. Fuck you. Beastars is over. It's just.
Oh, is it? I haven't.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't caught up yet.
It's 22 volumes, but I'm on 14 because I'm getting the every other month official English translation instead
I
of
should
the
go
scans.
finish that then.
But it's over. Some people know what happened.
I bet all of the animals got
everything.
eaten. Yeah, it's just every.
That
every
show is very
animal gets
prone to shocking full page reveals that are like, what the fuck, and then trying to like walk it back or figure out how to contextualize it afterwards, maybe. And like the show's weirdly good at the comic is weirdly good at that. Like Beastars keeps making it work on various levels, but their propensity for doing that means they could so easily just have the dumbest fucking ending.
I like the thought that like just an ending could just be humans show up.
all I know is that reality can't break as far as I'm aware, because I've seen little previews of like Beast Complex, like volume like 2, 3. I think there's already 4 volumes now, which was the thing that she wrote before Beastars. There was one volume. There's been one volume out, but she went back to it when Beastars ended, and there's characters in that from Beastars. So I'm like, okay, at least like the Earth didn't shatter. Reality
Like
still exists. It's not going to do some weird
like
bullshit because like in stuff like the 100, it's just over. Like there is no sequel to make. Like I don't want I don't want sequels really or anything, but I mean like reality is over. Like there can't be a sequel.
Yeah, you mean like how that shitty Full Metal Alchemist first anime ended, where it's just like, all right, goodbye entire world we developed. It's all gone now. Like, yeah, wouldn't that be a terrible ending to a series?
They didn't undo the world, did they? They just left it.
That's basically undoing the fucking world.
No, it's different levels of cataclysm.
You stole your character from the reality that you've kind of grown with them in and put them in a world that you don't want anybody to be in. Like, why would you do that?
We got, one final thing because we're running out of time, kind of, and my food's already here. But earlier I did do the math on something that I meant to bring up, and then it just never quite came up.
Math?
I did a poll earlier because I walked outside one day, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to count how many fucking American flags I see on this street, because what the fuck?
Oh, right.
Like, you guys probably remember this tweet.
Yes.
So I was like, what the fuck is our country? Like, this isn't, it's one of those things like when we realized that like other countries don't pledge allegiance every day at school, where I was like, what is this? How normal is this? What is going on here? And so I did a poll that was like, is this, where I told this story, and I was like, is this normal in your country? And the 3 options were yes, no, and I'm also American, because obviously you want those people out of the vote because that's useless data. And the poll results, where I normalize it so that I'm also American, becomes 0, and the other 2 numbers inflate up to adding up to 100, basically. Then my normalized result is 9% yes, 94% no.
Nice.
Jesus.
That sounds about right.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah. Why would anybody else do?
We
again,
are so
what
fucking weird.
Yes, I'm not.
American flags are fucking everywhere, and also they're
they're
mutations.
Oh yeah, they're
Like-
just getting worse. They're
Like all
I
the
saw
fascist mutations. Like I just wanted to
Yeah.
get a fucking like room divider. I was just shopping around some different places, just seeing if I could find a room divider. Partly because I was like, maybe I can try to sleep with my door open for better air circulation, but I need a thing to block my bed so people don't just see me sleeping. Like that's like you don't want to be in line of sight of your door that's open when you're sleeping. It just feels fucking weird to just be like publicly sleeping in that way. So I just wanted a thing at the foot of my bed to block line of sight of the door. It's simple. And one, room dividers / privacy screens are shockingly hard to find nowadays. They just don't exist anymore. They're just for movies. So that a lady can change off camera behind a screen, but still be on frame. And you're like, ooh, she's naked behind there. This is titillating for like Christians. But like, I walk into one of these fucking places. There is it was as tall as I was, I think. It was like 5 to 6 feet across. This fucking Blue Lives painting.
Oh no!
Nice. Beautiful.
Framed painting of the Blue Lives flag, the thin blue line thing. And I'm like, I was immediately like, oh, I feel like I'm in danger. Like I was like deep into this furniture store and I turn around and there's this gargantuan thing for sale and I just wanted to leave, and that's when the customer service person found me, and I was like really awkwardly reacting to them because I was having the emotional blow of seeing that just in the store.
Yeah.
And it was just like everything's fine.
Well,
Yeah,
look on
and
the bright side.
but enjoy
At
that
least it
stat,
wasn't
Americans.
The Confederate flag.
Oh,
I always
God.
play the game. Of.
I mean, the Blue
in
Lives
my-
flag is just the PC version of
basically the
a Confederate
Yeah.
flag.
That's
But yeah,
The,
for all you
uh,
Americans out there that didn't know how weird it was to pledge in class, enjoy how weird it is to have American flags fucking everywhere. Enjoy that knowledge.
It's the best game to play in the car. There's like a couple of games people play in cars, and one is like, hit people if you find a different license plate from your state, or hit people if you see a particular type of car for some reason. My new favorite is
To be
China?
clear, for people that don't know,
Yeah.
he means like you punch the person next to you.
Yes.
At stupid no, you don't run over the person that has a weird license plate.
You do. You also do that. You have to actually
Because you said
ran
hit
them
people,
off the road.
and that has an open
Oh,
interpretation.
Yeah. No, so whoever's sitting in your passenger seat, you're supposed to punch them in the arm.
Yeah. It's like Florida
and so
punch.
my
It's
yeah, and so
stupid
my favorite
kids things.
my favorite one is basically playing like I'm kind of like, where am I? And so you have to see how long you can go before you see another American flag. So like if you just driving down the road, you're like, you're like, oh, thank God, there's another.
Thank
American.
God I'm in
Yeah.
America. I would have forgotten.
Exactly. Like that's what I keep saying every time I see one. Like we pass by, like we'll just drive down some empty
There's
road for
so
nowhere.
many.
And yeah, you'll just drive down some like random back roads and you'll see a house on a hill waving an American flag. Oh, thank God. I was really worried. I thought I was in Canada. I thought I just got lost. Like
You can.
oh,
I've been in
thank you.
households where you can get in a single photo. You can get like 5 American flags, just because they're just like
It's-
on the walls, and they're like framed pictures of American flags, and there's literal American flags, and there's like American flag paraphernalia, and like with like fucking like skulls and eagles and shit coming out of them, and like fire and guns.
It's kind of
guns
like it's hilarious because it's almost like a perfect encapsulation of this country, is that like if there's a way that capitalism can ruin it, it will. And so like even patriotism has been just commodified and ruined by this system. Like, oh, you love your country? Well, I love money more. And it just like destroys all symbols of like national pride. It's like, yeah, you go to like an embassy. Hey, look, there's your nation's flag. You come to America, it's like, burr, burr, burr. It's like the whole building is covered in flags and eagles and fucking sirens blasting the national anthem. You're like, oh, I'm sorry about those guys though.
Oh, also, speaking of things that are not normal, so before a football game, you sing the American anthem. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, you sing national anthem before every sporting event. Boxing,
every sporting
soccer.
event. Okay, that's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
something that doesn't happen here in Europe.
Probably not. No, you don't really need to be remembered where you are.
Yeah,
Um,
it doesn't happen at all.
You have to remember, Americans are very forgetful. We kind of forget about
I think
stuff
it's just
really
fragility,
easily.
though. Why don't people see it as what it is, which
How
is
is it?
fragility?
How is it fragility? These people literally have like tattoos, T-shirts, and fucking like
It's-
beer coasters with American flags on them. They're not fragile about it. They're scared that if they don't see it within a few
That's what
seconds, they may
fragility
not
means.
be. No,
If
fragility
come
means
on.
weak. These people are just forgetful. They just keep forgetting that they're they forget where they are. They're just afraid that they may not be in the country they say they are in. It's well, I mean, they're also wearing a bunch of paraphernalia with American flags on it made from a different country, but that's besides the point.
Anyway, let's let Keith eat his food.
Yeah, go ahead and eat your food in peace. I can see that you're muting yourself so you can chomp, 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 chomp. And you didn't think we were going
He
to call
is
you out on it,
muting.
which is why you're sitting there panicking, trying to swallow as fast as you can. But
Thank you so much.
That's what happens when you're trying to talk while you have food in your throat. And now he's throwing the food around because he's laughing. And he's just like, and the screen is now covered in tacos.
now he's trying to clean it up, but he still hasn't unmuted yet because he's trying to be polite and doesn't want to be like laughing and distracting from the conversation, but also making the sounds of a rag hitting a monitor.
Repeatedly, and the tacos just
Yeah.
flopping onto the desk.
You just hear like crunches and like rag flaps.
Rag flaps. The thing is, like, we can't hear this, but if he doesn't edit it out, I think
I'm
his
sure
side
he's
is still being recorded.
I'm sure he's probably muted his own microphone. I'd imagine. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's just. Maybe he
don't know.
knows exactly where his sounds are. He's keeping a log of it. That or he's apparently indisposed because he has not returned. And I feel like even if he was eating something, he would have swallowed it by now. This is a very long
We could
time.
end the podcast ourselves.
It's potentially possible we could.
We have the keys to the house.
We do. But I don't know. It's more work for Keith to edit now, so maybe it's worth it to keep going. Just give him more work to do.
Are we
Oh
talking
no, he's
about
back.
me?
Shit.
Yeah, because you
Great.
were laughing at our jokes and spitting tacos all over your screen.
What?
You'll have fun editing this later. The
don't make me work. I'm not editing shit. It's just gonna be there. Fuck you. You can't tell me what to do.
There we go. So we were saying goodbye. We were saying that we could end the podcast.
Oh, I've done this before where I just leave and just go get my food when it arrives.
we thought you were
'cause,
eating your food.
I was about to, but
Mhm.
yeah, because the previous discussion happened, and then Colonel was like, "Oh yeah, so your sports games." I'm like, "Oh fuck, here we go. All right, this is a whole new topic. I'm just gonna go get my food. You guys can talk for a while until you tuck
It
yourselves
was just
out."
a little bit, just
Yeah,
a
it
little
was
bit of an added.
And then that didn't work
Quick
out.
nugget.
Well,
No.
No,
Well,
'cause there was that one time you
All
guys
right.
kept going for like another hour.
that was San
That's
Francisco.
true.
San Francisco. We have a lot to talk about.
We had an episode where I left, I got my food, I ate all of it, and then started talking again a half an hour later, and you guys didn't even necessarily notice I was gone. Like you guys
happens,
were just
yeah.
going so hard for so long. And I'm like, all right, well, let's just let him talk. It's fine.
I
just gotta eat.
yeah, happens. So okay, well that's the
literally
end of
didn't
that.
answer a single
So-
question. We're good at this.
We
I'll answer
answered
a
a whole
question
bunch
right-
last time.
I'll answer a question right fucking now. It's easy. This guy asked, how long do you usually record the podcast before you upload them? The day before. Question answered. I can move
Wait,
that to
do
my
you?
answered podcast folder. There we go.
You upload these on Monday? I thought you upload
Yeah.
these on Tuesday.
Nope.
You
We,
upload to
Monday.
SoundCloud. Ah,
we record them on Sunday in the middle of the day, and then I upload them midday on Monday to both SoundCloud and YouTube.
And this is Pacific time that
Ah.
he's referring to, obviously, because Greenwich Meridian time is not that.
Yeah, we
actually,
do
it's
that
4
we do
p.m.
that
4
every
p.m. on
day.
Mars.
That's why my
2
thumbnail
a.m. for me
and title
almost.
was like a quick hangover thrown together thing while I'm still trying to wake up for the day. It's like, I don't. What we talk
Fucking I
about?
don't.
What we talk about today? Fucking Dead Space. Fuck it.
Oh,
Capitalism breeds innovation.
you're gonna have trouble figuring
What?
out the theme for this podcast.
No, I got the perfect one. You just got to have an American flag with a COVID virus in front of it. There you go.
I can probably
Done.
look up like an American flag mask.
No, even better.
And then
Take
that's the
the
thumbnail.
COVID virus and then put an American flag over it and then mask it so that the American flag shows up on the COVID virus.
This one was a
And
ride. There's
then-
gonna be dislikes.
You know what? If no one's disliking it, it means you guys aren't thinking hard enough. You got to think harder. You should dislike everything in your life.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everybody. Even the people that are wrong.
Also that, yes.
Except for that one guy. You know who you are. Don't stay safe.
Jeff. Freaking Jeff.
I'm not naming names. I'm not naming names. I'm just saying that one guy, he knows who he is.
Fuck you,
Don't
Jeff.
stay safe. From the Overwatch
was-
team.
No, he's not even there anymore.
That's
Leave him alone.
why I'm mad. Get back here. Make your fucking game.
All right, see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.